All right, how's everybody doing? This is Cheech
Cheech.
from the Cheech and Manny Music Podcast. We have a great one today, Blood on the Tracks by our man Bob Dylan. How's it going, Manny? How's everything?
Oh, dude, as always, life is good, man. Very busy, but I'm happy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I had a pretty busy day. My kid, her birthday's coming up next week,
Oh,
and
how
I did
wonderful.
something very strange. I We were in Greenwich, so I took on Greenwich Avenue to get some gifts or whatever, and we I went to the temple on my day off with one of my
Why?
right.
Why?
Why? I don't know. Just to get her food. So you know why? But to make the kid happy. I made some bass videos, so play some bass. Pretty much. Uh, Shout out to Pottersfield BX as always.
Yes, sir.
Uh, any shout outs for you?
No, not for me. Just for all our fans watching, I'm gonna drop 3 episodes this week because I fell a little behind on the scheduling. So I'm
It
gonna
was funny.
drop.
I watched John Wesley Harding and I was so into it. I was like,
Oh, I felt so bad, and dude,
I watched it on my TV, and I was like, I'm so into this. I was like, wow. I was like, fuck. But yeah, no
we're
problem, man.
we're missing like half of it, which I'm fixed. It's fixed. So right
Yeah,
now that should upload. I'm gonna do it tonight. So that'll
yeah,
be fixed and upload. So for all our fans out there, watch that John Wesley Hardin. I think
yeah.
we analyze the album, and not many. I'll be honest with you, like not many do that. So I'm
No,
kind of happy with that one. Yeah, but dude, great talk and discussion.
yeah, that was a really really good one. I can't get off the Bob Dylan kick. It's ridiculous. I'm starting to write basement tapes too.
Right.
Starting on that. So we have Nashville Skyline that we
Yep.
just did last
Yep.
week,
I'll be honest.
and
I may drop them all of them. Why not? So because I usually I go on a schedule just because I feel bad for our fans out there that I
yeah,
fell behind. So
no,
you know
don't
we
it's
got
okay.
we
So
got
we got
amazing stuff, especially Bob Dylan
yeah.
fans. And I know I converted you to now Bob Dylan, where
Oh yeah.
I think, and it's funny because okay, let me ask you a question,
Hmm.
Cheech, who is better, Rush or Bob Dylan?
Oh, in my world, it's always going to be Rush. There's two different apples and oranges. But I might say like lyrically, Bob Dylan I think he had an influence on Neil, and I don't think Neil ever maybe admitted that but he did have an influence on the stories and the religious aspects and
Right,
the
right.
things like absurdity, because Neil got absurd a little bit with some of his lyrics.
You know what's funny? If we could interview, rest in peace, Neil Peart, but if we could interview him, or Getty, because or Alex Lifeson, like asking them, how did Bob Dylan influence you? Especially because they were Canadians.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, maybe Neil Young influenced them more. We know Led Zeppelin and you know,
yeah. I mean, Rush were always rockers. There wasn't a folky side to them. They were listening to Zeppelin and
right.
Genesis, yes, the proggy band, a band called Gentle Giant.
Oh, Gentle Giant is awesome. Very
Yeah.
proggy.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's funny. And when they got acoustic, like on songs like
yeah.
Madrigal in Spanish, and there's one on 2112. And by the way, I was re-listening to 2112.
Oh,
Oh,
Tears.
dude. Oh,
Tears.
Tears.
Tears could be an AM Gold song. Could be a yacht
Yep.
rock song.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, I argue the the um the two tracks after 2112 are yacht rock, like
Um, Let me say Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
And you know what's funny? I don't know if you would agree. Passage to Bangkok has a sort of Toto vibe. I don't know why I
yeah,
hear it.
yeah, it has it in there. Yeah, it's
You know,
about
especially I don't know if it's racist, but when they do,
yeah. Well, it's a spoof of. There was a cartoon, Charlie Chang, and
oh, okay,
I
okay.
think they played that in it.
Oh, I love it. I love
It
it.
was a cartoon.
No,
Like,
no, definitely no, definitely not racist. I feel like people would take it racist today, but
oh,
I just
today,
it's
yeah.
so it's
You
so
know, I think it's a goof on Charlie Chang. He was a cartoon guy. It was Chinese, and they played that kind of
right.
thing. And if anyone liked Anthrax, the metal band, they stole the riff from Passage to Bangkok on the song called Indians.
Ah, but it's amazing. But the influence,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
that's so
Rush
cool.
influenced everybody. Rush influenced every single hard rock band out there. Um, definitely. I wonder what Bob Dylan thinks of Rush on the other side.
You know what's funny? He never. As far as I know, I know you send me interviews and I watch interviews. He's never commented on progressive rock, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And Rush, definitely, I've not. Apart from like Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, which is two Canadians that are well known.
Yeah.
I am not sure.
I
I
think
mean,
he stayed.
imagine Bob Dylan made a prog rock album.
Well, he kind of did on that Nashville Skyline rag. That's real. You
Country
know,
prog, country like
Charlie. I know that's where Charlie Daniels got. Devil Went Down to Georgia and that kind of vibe from. You know, but yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, 2112 is like if you get away from the concept and you go to the side B, it's great. So many great songs.
Cheech, dude. Side B. It's funny. 2112 is a dude. And again, I was listening to 2112. I'll be honest with you, dude. It's perfection. Like I,
Oh
I,
yeah,
I, I can see why this made Rush. But side B, dude, one of FM. It's a
yeah.
FM rock, dude. It's
So,
perfect.
I mean, Something for Nothing. There's a song called Lessons on there. I mean, this is in my DNA. I know this by heart. Tears, only 4 songs. Tears, and then what's the last one? Oh, I'm trying to be cocky, saying I know everything. Tears, Something for
Passage to
Nothing,
Bangkok, Tears,
Lessons,
Twilight Zone,
and Lessons.
and that's yep.
Yeah, and they're all. Yeah, I forgot about Twilight Zone, and they're just those songs could have been. Twilight Zone could have been an AM Gold song.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's like
And by the way, for us on the Cheech and Manny Music Show, the People's Podcast, Yacht Rock is not it. No.
no
What is it, Cheech?
AM Gold.
AM Gold. I like that better.
And the reason why I say that, when I was a kid, I was always exposed to AM radio and all these bands, the Little River Band.
Well, actually, Cheech, explain what is AM radio, because most of our listeners will have no
Okay.
idea what you're talking about.
And it's crazy because I just got a new car, and in the car is like every radio station in the friggin' world, and I'm sitting here going, oh my God, any news you want to, there's AM like for news, and then there's like Dave Matthews channel, Grateful Dead channel, Pearl Jam channel. Couldn't find the Rush one, but it does exist. I looked it up. So it's amazing what we got today in a car system. You can program it to anything you want, opposed to 20 years ago where you just had CDs. You just put them in, and that was cool. But AM, you had FM and AM. Now, at the time, the 60s and the 50s and the 70s, they had AM. AM was pretty happening. You can hear music on there. Then as time went on, they would play only sports channels or only news. AM became like
right. Now, Cheech, am I wrong? Is that the Replacements had a song "Left of the Dial"? Does that have to do anything with it?
Yeah, probably going to AM. Yeah,
okay. Left of the Dial. They immortalized it.
And AM was mainly not really, from what I could remember. I don't think it was rock. It was more soft rock. It was more like lighter stations and news stations, and then FM was always rock. But they had an album in the 80s called AM Gold that I had gotten, and it had all those bands, America, I'm saying like the obscure ones, that we were told like what did you sent me a beautiful song the other day.
I sent you a bunch because dude, I got on and hopefully we can do an episode on the AM Gold and argue. We could explore why is it called Yacht Rock and make a case. Stop calling it Yacht Rock.
Like the Little River Band.
Oh, dude, what a man! Oh, wait, Cheech. As a side note, What do you think? I think I texted you. Have you ever listened to Kate Bush?
Yes, yes, yeah. I actually went and watched some of her videos. I haven't thought about her in a long time. She's
Dude, I've been on a Kate Bush high. Her first album, Wuthering Heights. You ever heard that song?
yeah, yeah, she was good. She was really
Oh,
good.
she amazing. And Hounds of Love.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
Now was she a part of that whole? How do I say this without sounding like? Back in the '90s, there was a certain like the Indigo Girls. You know, if you know where I'm going with
Well,
that,
yes. No,
where
no,
I'm going
but
with this,
yes,
which is
yes.
cool. I mean, I'm not knocking it.
No,
It was
no, no, no. But the problem is that she released her album in the 1970s, like 1978 or 9.
well, I thought she was. I thought
Nah,
Kate Bush
dude.
was in the
No, no,
'90s.
no, no. And get this, her first album. Maybe we could do an episode just
Wait,
um
wasn't she popular in the '90s though?
she released albums in the 90s. No, but I think her big
Uh,
time was late 70s and 80s, especially with the album Hounds of Love and that one song that became actually popular a few years ago or a year ago. Um, um, what's it called? Something with a hill. I can't believe I'm blanking out, but
yeah.
no, but she not 90s, but she kept releasing albums in the 90s. But no, no, no,
I
no.
I heard of her in the '90s. I always put her in that category in the '90s. You know, for some reason, because she got popular, she got more popular in the '90s. I think, right? In the MTV
I'll
generation.
be honest with you, I'm not sure. I don't think so though, because Kate Bush has always been like art rock, like very art pop.
I don't know why I remember her videos on MTV in the '90s. In
I
a
mean, it could
part
be
of that,
because of MTV. It could be because of MTV. If I had
maybe
to
there
take a
was like a
guess.
Lilith. There was like a Lilith tour. It was an all female tour, and I know Kate. Yeah, I think definitely. Like, we gotta look that up. I
Well,
definitely
I'll
know.
be honest with you. I'm not sure. Maybe you're thinking of another Kate Bush, or maybe I could be wrong. But the one
Could you
I'm referring,
could you Google that for a second? If she had
go.
any hits in the '90s, because it's like that's gonna drive me nuts.
I will say for dude, I've been on a Kate Bush high. So dude, I'll be honest with you. Her last album was no, dude.
No, I'm off on
Um,
this one.
she definitely released no, she released legendary albums, but no, her time was mostly in like late 70s, 80s, like her peak. Oh, and the song is Running Up That Hill.
Okay, I gotta check her. I
And then you
gotta
get and then she
investigate.
released an album, The Red Shoes, 1993, and then 2005 Ariel. No, so she definitely wasn't but she wouldn't have
I
been
think
popular in the 90s because of grunge.
I do think though in that 1993 album, I think she had a huge hit on that
Could be.
song on
That
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 because
I,
that's so
I
she did have an album in the '90s because that's how I don't know why that's how I remember her. You know, for some reason
well,
I thought she was a
I will
'90s artist.
I will say like dude, her voice is first of all,
Yeah,
beautiful
no,
woman, beautiful voice, and
yeah,
I, I for some odd reason got really into her. And get this, like David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, I think produced her first album. She's English. Her Cheech, you would dig the first album because she drops a lot of like you know novel and classic themes. But
I gotta. I never really I knew she was, but I never got heavily into her. So I gotta
I'll
check
send
her
you
out.
some music from her from the Kicking Side. That's her
Yeah, yeah.
19. Dude, check this out. Look, her 1978 album called "The Kick Inside," which I've been obsessed. Um, but get this, several progressive rock musicians, and I hear it in the sound. It's amazing, including Duncan McKay, Ian Byerson, David Patton, Andrew Powell, Stuart Elliott of the Alan Parsons Project, and David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, produced it. And dude, masterpiece of an album.
Oh, I had no idea. I had no idea she was that far back.
But I'll send you tracks though, and then well,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah. Always knew the name, and some reason I know she had a huge hit in that
she probably
album.
did.
Yeah, and I think she might have headlined one of those Lilith Fear things, and I always associated her with that era of like oh God, I can't think of these people's names. Like, obviously the Indigo Girls and Annie DeFranco, people like that had that whole movement. That like female.
Actually, Cheech, no, you're right because get this: the album peaked at number 2 in the UK albums chart, and it
Yeah,
went platinum. So you may be right.
yeah, and she kind of kicked off that whole like Lilith Fair thing with like Sinead O'Connor, Annie DeFranco,
I can see
maybe
that.
it might have been maybe around Alanis Morissette era, like that whole
Yeah,
like when girls
yeah,
just came out of nowhere. Liz Fair. There's so many great female rockers in the
yeah,
'90s that we
yeah,
didn't really bring up in the grunge. Like this girl Liz Fair kicked ass. I'm trying to
yeah,
think of another girl. Her last name was Tracy Bonham, I think her name was. She was just like a
right,
great.
right.
I mean, she played violin, I think. There's a lot of those female girls. That Veruca Salt,
I
you
I
know.
will say it's funny because with female rockers, I know I disagree with this. They say they like to say rock and roll chauvinistic and stuff, but the problem is rock and roll has that blues. Oh my woman did me wrong.
Yeah,
Da, 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 da. But dude, yeah, we didn't talk about like Alanis Morissette, which dude, she
yeah,
brought in like a whole new sound. And dude, Kate Bush, like I was listening to her first album,
yeah,
and man, dude, and she has an interesting way of singing. Like how Getty is very unique and
yeah.
singular, and remind me who's the Yes singer?
Oh, what am I? Ian. Why am I blanking? What's
I'm
wrong with
blanking too. Me too. Shame on me. It's a sin.
Joe's
Oh,
gonna? Are we blanking? Not Ian Anderson.
oh man. Not Ian Anderson. That's
No,
Jethro Tull.
oh, I know.
Um,
Forgive me, people out
uh,
there.
but you know how I was listening to Kate Bush and like the album. I've been obsessed with it. Like it's called The Kick Inside, and yeah, and she's not a rocker per se, but
Yeah.
one of those rare progressive female I call progressive female rock singers.
Hmm.
And Alanis Morissette, I would even argue not a big fan of her, but Patti Smith also in the punk scene.
I have every Ian Hill from Judas Priest, Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. I feel like Marcel. Ian, you know, Ian.
Yo, careful with this. Yo, careful with those jokes. We'll be blocked.
Oh my god! Like, wait. Ah, this. I'm ashamed. I'm
I
sorry.
know. You know what? I gotta now search it up because now,
Brain is not working.
Cheech, I have to go to confession because that's a sin. I
Oh
know. I
my.
don't know what's happening with me. Okay, John Anderson.
John Anderson. He's not even an Ian.
No, John Anderson. But you know what's funny? He has this. Um, I love his singing style. So unique.
Forgive
It's
us, people. We are prog
sorry,
guys.
sorry. I know.
You can
That's
comment
a
on that. And you have every right to curse us out, Joe especially.
Cheech. That's a. I know we committed prog sins right now
It's
at
been a
the
long
temple.
day, especially for Manny. It's been a long day. So, oh my god. But um, yeah. So she sounds like him. You think, John
No,
Anderson?
no, 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 no. The reason why I say it is, how progressive rock there's a lack of female voices.
Yeah.
Kate Bush I could argue is one of those rare. And by the way, I would be curious. Rush. I feel like they've mentioned Kate Bush, and again, like the reason
Neil.
why
I think Neil did. Neil
I
might.
think so. I could have sworn in some interview, like you and I watched a ton of Rush interviews between the band,
Yeah.
and that's where I heard Kate Bush, and from David Gilmour from Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Never really gave her a chance, and just listened to her first album, dude. One of the rare, I would argue, proggy women albums because
Well,
there's not much.
there was a band called Renaissance that had a female singer.
Oh, that's cool. Prog
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah. Art rock. Prog rock.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Silkman
Very
really liked.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. We should do an episode on like the female rock singers. I feel like that would be worthwhile because
Well, I got to go with number one, Ann Wilson from Heart. I think she's
oh,
the greatest.
speaking of Ann Wilson, I was the song Magic Man appeared in my playlist because I was doing
Oh,
like a
God.
dude.
Yeah.
Can I tell you the musicianship on this and that voice? Oh
And
man,
don't forget the other important thing, that Moog. There's a Moog break in there
dude, that dude.
where it goes down out.
I'll be honest, you Hard from the 70s, I feel for some odd reason are a little bit underrated. And dude, Crazy on You, her
Mm-hmm.
vocals. And yeah,
Yeah.
that Moog, you're right. And that's a proggy instrument. Moog.
Barracuda. Oh my God.
Oh,
I mean, they were straight on to you. They and then they had ballads like Dog and Butterfly,
yeah.
Dreamboat.
Yeah.
The art was hard as, oh my God, underrated band I think in the 70s.
Very. Uh, both of them, both beautiful women, by the way. And then especially in like on the cover of their Dreamboat Annie 1975 album.
Little
And
Queen. I always say Little Queen was
yeah,
Ann Wilson. That's probably my dream woman. Ann Wilson on Little Queen. She's
100%.
beautiful. You
Um,
know. Then
and
even in the 80s, they weren't bad. They weren't
no,
like as
no,
bad
no, no, no,
as
dude. They produced some of the best like '80s like ballad hits. Like they kind of embraced that sound.
yeah.
And a lot of bands did, and it actually worked. And I think they became more massive in the '80s and '70s.
They did, and they got more sexy. Like especially Nancy Wilson. She was the hot one because she wasn't really sexy in the 70s. She
Right,
could almost pass for a dude with long hair. But she got like real
right.
female looking and but yeah, and I think Ann Wilson beautiful in the 70s. Even now, even if she's a big woman, but she's beautiful now, and she could still sing. I mean,
Oh, I would put her up with the greatest rock vocalist and Nancy Wilson, dude. She's like an underrated guitarist. Like she.
oh
I don't.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think they really give her enough credit as a songwriter too, because most of their songs were written by those two, which is
yeah.
awesome. That's rare.
She's a singer. She's a powerful singer. She wasn't a pop singer like Pat Benatar. Pat Benatar
Right.
is amazing, but she's a pop singer, and she has a great voice.
Right.
She wasn't like a Linda Ronstadt, like she was sweet and cute, cutesy kind of voice. She kicked ass.
Yeah.
One of the few women in that era to really kick ass as a vocalist until the 80s, and then there was some girl singers that really like Lita Ford and stuff like that, and Dora Pesh, girls like that. But
Mhm.
she paved the way. She paved the way. So, but you want to
It started with the legendary Blood in the Tracks, which if I would make um a greatest top 10 albums that of all time and albums that you must listen to, I'll be
yeah.
honest with you, I would put this is my Grace Under Pressure pick, where I would pick this over, people would pick I'm sure you would pick like Blonde on Blonde or
Oh yeah,
Highway
yeah.
61 Revisited
Mm-hmm.
or um I love this title, Bringing It All Back Home.
Yeah.
I would put Blood on the Tracks. Mr. Joe Silkman would put Desire.
Right.
What album would you put like top?
For Dylan,
Mm-hmm.
Highway 61 Revisited, I think, or Blonde on Blonde. I don't know. It's tough. I would probably say Blonde on Blonde.
Okay, and that's fair. That's like usually everyone's pick. So I would pick the controversial pick and say Blood on the Tracks
But
over
then
Blonde on
again,
Blonde.
I got to go back with my boy Bloomfield.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
I'm torn. I'm torn on those two. Funny story. I forget this kid's name, but he comes in. Not a kid. He's like my age. Whole Foods, and he's a rocker guy. Makes his own music. God, I forgot his name. I'm bad with names today. He said he was in a museum one time, and he knew a guy who was moving stuff around. He was like helping him or whatever. And the guy goes, "You know what I got here?" And he goes, "What?" "The guitar that Bob Dylan played at the Newport Jazz Festival."
No way.
He goes, "Yeah, he played that guitar, the electric guitar."
The Strat, right?
Yeah. If he ever comes in when we're there, when we're together, I gotta introduce you to him.
Yes, sir.
He also played one of Dave Gilmour's guitar
Oh wow.
that was out like in the museum, like kind of thing. Yeah, he was telling me. Yeah, so
They have a rock and roll museum, right? I gotta put that on my bucket list.
yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall
Joe
of Fame.
Joe Silkman, was that? I remember he sent that picture of I don't know where that was. Maybe
It could have been the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or it could have been the Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas, because they have,
mm,
I saw a lot of cool stuff. many years ago when I went there. But Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has all that stuff.
Mm.
That's the positive thing about the rock. The only positive thing about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the museum. You know, but I haven't heard like when they selected the people. Now I'm not going to get on a rampage on that, but I I haven't heard if they picked the
Me
people.
either.
You know, but we'll find out soon. So anyway, let's jump into 1975. Great year. This is a great year for music.
Mm-hmm.
Night at the Opera. Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. One of Those Nights, the Eagles. Physical
Mm.
Graffiti. This strange band out of Canada, Fly By Night and Caress of Steel. You ever hear of those guys?
No, I
Lead
never heard of them.
singer with a high voice. Your Boy, Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, sir.
Who by Numbers. Neil Young, Tonight's the Night. Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. I had to put this down. Fool for the City because I love the band Foghat.
Mm-hmm.
Rock and Roll by John Lennon. Straight Shooter by Bad Company. And Ted Nugent. You know, I don't care what people think of Ted Nugent now. I still love Ted Nugent.
Mm-hmm.
You
Same.
know, you got to think about his music, not his political views.
Mm-hmm.
He's been quiet though. You know.
Yeah. He hasn't been on any. I don't know. Yeah, on the scene.
I wonder if he's like, what's going on in this world? Maybe maybe I'm gonna switch over to parties or something. I don't know, but we won't go there. Okay. So what I did is I made up album. So we're skipping just to give our viewers. We stopped at Nashville Skyline, which was 1969. So we're not doing this like a Rush thing or a Zeppelin thing. I skipped over about 4 albums, but I'm going to talk about each album because they're very important.
Right.
So, okay. And just to throw this out there, Blood on the Tracks, in my opinion, is all about the breakup with Sarah Lowndes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to be about love songs, broken heart, except for there might be some religious things
those songs are breakup songs too. Except in Dylan's like genius musical songwriting, he kind of uses religious imagery, like to mask it. But one level of it is breakup and the dissolution of marriage. Like I think that's one of the themes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. She's the muse on this. So in 1970, he comes out with an album called Self Portrait. The singles were Wigwam. It's a double album too, for the second time. It's very folky, and it did not do so great. It didn't do good. Just to throw that out there. The singles on it are New Morning and If It's Not You. I don't even know if you're familiar with these albums.
You know, it's funny. Sadly, some of the tracks, but I have sadly skipped over them because they're kind of really challenging listens because they're not that great. Sadly.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay.
They're okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is
New Morning.
New Morning, 19.
And that's a little better. Like that's a little better. Like New Morning is not bad.
Yeah. Oh, did I say New Morning as a song? I'm sorry. New Morning.
No, yeah. Yep.
1970. If It's Not You, that's a pretty good song.
Oh, yeah.
It came out 4 months after Self Portrait. It was the return of his nasally singing.
Yep.
Not a commercial success, but I think George Harrison recorded If Not For You.
Yep, on his own album, which his version kind of outshines Bob Dylan's version. Remember how we talked about poor Bob Dylan in the 1970s? Like other artists sounded more Bob Dylan than Bob Dylan himself.
Yeah.
That's an example, If Not For You, because George Harrison on that track is so... it's one of the best songs on his debut album.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's an honor that he did that.
100%.
And Lennon didn't talk to him. Did you watch that movie? My cousin had sent me that movie.
Which one?
about Bob Dylan in the '70s. It was like a weird movie. I think I sent it to you on Saturday because my
Oh,
cousin
let,
mentioned
let me
it.
double check. Oh, okay.
And it's like there's a scene of him and John Lennon in a limousine, and they're kind of crack fighting on each other, but doing it
Oh,
joking.
right.
Yeah. Um. So, New Morning came out 4 months after Self Portrait. Returned to his nasally singing, not a commercial success. George Harrison recorded that song, If Not For You. Now, this is a weird one. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. A
Mm-hmm.
return to his cowboy days. John Wesley Harding came out in 1973, but this one is a good album because it has one of his biggest hits in the world. Knocking on Heaven's Door, which I love.
Mm-hmm. Great
But
song.
it was a movie that he was in the movie, and he put some of his songs on the score.
Right.
There's a lot of instrumentals on it.
Right.
And he,
And Knocking on Heaven's Door is. I'll be honest with you. The soundtrack is okay. I don't know if you like it. For me, it's okay. But
yeah,
Knocking on Heaven's Door is so good. Like
oh,
people
genius.
like Bob. Any people out there new to Bob Dylan, listen to Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Brilliant.
Beautiful song.
It's totally brilliant. All right. Then Dylan in 1973. It was put out by the record company because he left Columbia. I was surprised that he left Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
It was put out as a compilation of outtakes from Self Portrait and New Morning. Dylan was on tour with the band at the time when the album came out. It has 6 covers and 3 traditional folk songs, and it is probably his least selling album ever. You know,
Sadly, it's one of his worst.
yeah,
Not that great. It's okay.
yeah, and because the record label just wanted to make money
Yep.
because he left
Yep.
and he went to Asylum for one album. This is a great album, Planet Wave.
That's a good one. And I think he plays with the band on that one, right,
Band
Cheech?
album, and Rob Fraboni produced it. So he got away from Bob Johnston, like a Terry Brown
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I think Bob Johnston made that '60s sound, and he wanted
Oh
to
yeah.
use '70s. Toured with the band on this. This album went #1. And he went back to his rock and roll roots. There's a song called Hazel that's really good, and Forever
Yep.
Young.
Yep.
Really
And fun fact, both of those songs, he played live with the band on the Last Waltz. Fantastic.
yeah. Now we're getting to Blood on the Tracks, 1975. He's back on Columbia, so I don't know what happened. Maybe
Yeah.
they got into an argument. And it gets interesting with Columbia. Why his marriage broke up because of Columbia Records, I think, too. There's like a little interesting fact about that. I don't know if you know that.
Right. Right.
Recorded in New York in Minneapolis.
Right.
Um, the songs are connected to his personal life, his divorce from Sarah Noland,
Mm-hmm.
but he denies that, of course.
I was gonna say, and Cheech, if you don't mind, add a little Sarah Lowndes, right? So that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, his son, Jacob Dylan,
Yeah,
who will end up singing with the Wallflowers in the 90s, Jacob
yeah,
Dylan described the songs as my parents talking, which is interesting. And it's funny, Dylan, has denied that. No, the songs are not autobiographical, but I feel like that's Dylan being subversive.
yeah,
He always has to be like, no.
yeah. He's just like lying,
And
about that.
who knows? Because Bob Dylan wrote the songs, but I think it's obvious.
Oh yeah, definitely. What was but Dylan denied it. Now he brings in a great producer. Now I don't think this guy was famous yet, but he goes on to be real famous.
Oh, he's
So,
so legendary.
he is definitely a legendary producer. I
Yeah,
think it might have been his first album where he got real popular because I know in the
right.
'80s he becomes a legend. He got rid of Bob Johnston. You know, The singles were "Tangled Up in Blue." Uh, I forgot. I for maybe I'm saying them.
If you see her, say
Say
hello.
yeah. It is listed as one of the greatest albums of all time, double platinum, number 7 on the greatest albums of the Carl Larkin book, whatever that is. Uh, so he just finished a successful tour with the band, and he began a relationship with a new woman who worked at Columbia Records named Ellen Bernstein. So going back to Columbia, he meets this chick, and he leaves his wife for her. She
Mm-hmm.
worked for Columbia. All the songs are played. This is interesting. All these songs are played in open D tuning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You want
And,
that, or you
no,
want me?
no, it's crazy because just look. I'm actually, it's funny. I have been trying to learn guitar,
Yeah,
and I was trying to look for the tuning on, and it's so cool because like the open D and open E tunings, I don't know, something about them. But I was learning how to play Shelter from the Storm, and the by sound and the guitar tab I was researching, it said open D tuning,
yeah.
and it kind of allows you to play certain chords in a certain way, which is interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the way it works is if you're playing a D chord, it's D A F
Mm-hmm.
sharp A D. You use the third note to form the D triad, a major chord. And any major chord can be played with one finger. So if you go open E, you go to F, there's an F major, F sharp major, going up the neck, G major, G sharp major. So you can use one finger to
Yeah,
play,
exactly. Yep.
you know. Um, and some popular people that used it: Neil Young, Richie Havens, Joni Mitchell, Elmore James. Actually, Stone Gossard used it on Even Flow. Thought that was
Mm.
interesting. He learned it from Paul Brady, an Irish folk singer. Okay. Okay. This is interesting. He wanted Mike Bloomfield to play, electric guitar in the band, and Mike Bloomfield could not stand the open tuning. He went and he jammed with him, and he's like, "I don't get it. It all he thought everything sounded the same, you know,
Right.
and he didn't understand the musical part of it. So
Right.
Mike Bloomfield just he split, and he didn't use him. Um, personal. There's a lot of players on this. Bob Dylan vocals, acoustic, mandolin, him and organ. Um, Chris Webber acoustic guitar, 12 string. Kevin Odegaard acoustic. Eric Weisberg acoustic. Charles Les Brub electric. Buddy Cage pedal steel. Peter Otorski mandolin. Greg and Offer pianos. Tom Mifugel keys, Billy Peterson bass, Tony Brown bass, Bill Berg on drums, who he brings back, and a guy named Rich Cook. Bob
It's
Dylan.
like a whole team.
Oh yeah, they had a lot of session guys on this. Phil Ramone produced. Phil, I'm gonna say his name wrong. Robinson engineered. Phil Ramone, just to throw some people he produced. Karen Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ray Charles. Maybe he was already famous in the 70s. I just remember him in the 80s. Natalie Cole, The Band, Chicago, Billy Joel, B.B. King, Paul McCartney, George Michael, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, Richard Marx, Pavarotti, Paul Simon, Frank Sinatra, James Taylor, and Stevie Wonder. This guy's like,
Oh, and one legendary one, it's one of my favorite albums, Billy Joel's "The Stranger." He
oh yeah,
produced one of his greatest albums.
so yeah, he was yeah, that's right, that's right. Holy cow!
Also around the same time period, roughly.
Well, I think the Stranger was a little later, maybe seven.
I think 78, but still, I mean,
But this might have been Phil Ramone's first album
hmm.
that like put him on the map, kind of thing. I think Tangled
Mm-hmm.
Up in Blue. Um, Is 68 in Rolling Stone's 500. And that would be the first song on the album, Tangled Up in Blue. He wrote it, but he wrote it inspired by Joni Mitchell.
I hear that in the
You know,
sound,
that's
100%.
that was the main influence on that. It's about a story of a love affair, uh, also his career, how the past upon the present, the public upon privacy, um, you know, distance among upon friendship. It's a set of sonnets, said one Dylanologist, like poetry. Um, you know, and Sarah Lone and Ellen Bernstein are what the song is about. Ellen Bernstein was married when he first met her. Um, so he said, was there a lyric in here? Written in my soul, from me to you. Some carpenter's wife, Mary. You know, just throw in some of the lyrics that are in there. That I thought that stood out to me. You know, but Tangled Up in Blue is a great song.
Yeah,
You know,
legendary.
is that the famous? Is he playing it where he's on stage and he's all white? He has
That's
these.
one of the from the Rolling Thunder review concert. Yeah,
Yeah, that for our listeners out there, find that on YouTube because
yeah,
that is
it's
that,
amazing.
that's genius. That's a genius recording. He's amazing.
And it's funny because coming from Nashville Skyline, which we kind of said that the album Nashville Skyline is so warm, so poppy, so
Yeah,
full of love, and not obviously still kept releasing albums, with spottiness here and there. This album is now, it like, and I don't know, Cheese, like every song is in a way heartbreaking. Like it's sad.
yeah,
Um, there is not really a happy song. Of course, there's some, like, not everything is like downbeat. Like, um, the song "Meet Me in the Morning" is so good, but there's something so sad about every track. Like that's why I love the album. And
hmm
one of my favorite songs that we'll get into is "Idiot Wind." It's like, if you listen to it, it's 7 minutes of Dylan just like bearing his heart out and
yeah,
talking to his. Like, you can hear it, like,
yeah,
um, but coming from, because in terms of continuity from Nashville Skyline, which was this warm poppy record, he's singing "Lay Lady Lay,"
yeah, yeah.
uh, not to sing "You're an idiot, babe," and his singing too is interesting because he goes from that country, and again, for don't fact check me, Dylanologist. I'm not skipping his albums in between, just the continuity of this show. Remember how he said he had that country croon? Now
Yep.
he's back in this sort of like mix of nasally.
And
Um,
it's like together and is it? Would you say it's nasally and croony? Or,
it's weird, yeah. It's like a weird mix, and I'll be honest with you, this is the sound of Bob Dylan's voice on
yeah,
this
yeah.
album. Like, it's
Great.
great.
It's fantastic. Meet Me in the Morning, especially
Oh,
is.
I know you always talk about the bass line.
Oh yeah, phenomenal. So Tangled Up in Blue,
First
nice,
track. Yep.
nice groove, nice vocals. Um, very distinguishing drum sound and groove. Great pre-chorus, great chorus, classic chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Nice instrumental section in between the verses. Ending with the harmonica solo. Great bass riffs. Um, with there's I love the rhythm changes over the harmonica solo at the end. So he's actually
Yeah.
not playing on
So
one
good.
note. They're changing chords as he's playing a harmonica solo. Or in the past, he was just saying two chords and he would just a solo. But they're getting, he got more proggy, as he developed and stuff. Anything else on that?
Musically, this song is, first of all, one of his classics, one of his greatest, and
Oh
I
yeah,
love, I love. Yeah, I agree. Instrumentally, it everything that he did on Blonde, for example, I think makes a comeback musically on this song "Tangled Up in Blue." From the
Oh,
strumming, which is so beautiful, his singing is. I'll be honest with you, it's one of his best vocals that I've
oh,
ever heard from him,
I'm,
and and I love how you said the ending, that great like instrumental over the harmonica. Yeah, it's like it's kind of proggy. It's and the
yeah, there's
harmonica is tasteful. It's so good.
you listen to it. There's chord. He's singing the. I think it's a verse. The verse is being played over the harmonica. That's hard to do. It's hard. It's hard to play harmonica over them changes. The next one, a simple twist of fate.
Wait,
Once again,
wait, wait. Are you gonna go instrumentally first, each one?
um, well, I did the instrumentation on Tangled Up in Blue, right?
Lyrics? You don't want to get into
No, I did. We did the lyrics.
for Tangled Up in Blue?
Yeah, yeah, didn't we? We said it was
Well, wait, hold on though, because I wanna go to certain lines.
okay. I said it was basically influenced by Joni Mitchell, and it was
Oh, well, okay, okay. And I also think the whole album too has a Joni Mitchell influence.
yeah, and it's about a story of a love. Wait, maybe I didn't go into it. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, 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 no. I was gonna say because this song, dude, there's so
Yeah,
much.
it's about
Actually, let. Okay, go ahead.
it's about the story of a love affair, and in his career, how he was like changing direction and stuff with his music, and it talks about distance upon friendship, and it's a set of sonnets. Yeah, I did mention that. That was what I got on. I didn't get a lot out of it, so it's basically a set of sonnets and about
Hmm.
love affair between those two women. Unless you have something more.
Yeah. So Tangled Up in Blue, like take out the music. Well, with the music, it's 1970s masterpiece,
Yeah.
rock masterpiece, and I 100% agree. It follows in the Joni Mitchell style,
Oh
which
yeah.
it's really cool how Joni Mitchell had an influence on this album, but definitely this track. And yeah, he creates this like epic tale of you know two lovers, but they could be different too because I feel like each section is different,
Well,
and it's
the two lovers are going to be what's her name?
well, not counting Sarah Lawrence and himself though, but I've read somewhere or heard, I forgot where I got this thought that I think it was Dylan himself. The song has different stories within it. So it's kind of weird, but it can also be a long, continuous tale of um, Dylan and Lowndes. Obviously crumbling relationship,
Yeah.
and one of the best lines. Um, I got two really interesting lines that I've always loved, even before like I analyzed the song.
I love the carpenter's wife, Mary.
Okay, yes, yes, that's one of them. And where's that? Is that towards the top or beginning or
Remember,
let
written
me
in
see.
my me to you. I like that one too.
Yeah, yeah. And so let me just go for this line here that I love. Um, and I'll see what. Okay, yeah. So your line is. So now I'm going back again. I got to get to her somehow. Like I love the way he's sort of like singing urgently. All the people we used to know, they're an illusion to me now, which is so heartbreaking. Reminds me of like Rush's Time Stand Still. And then
Yeah,
some are mathematicians, some are carpenter's wife. And he says, I don't know how it all got started. And I love the way he sings the song. I don't know what they're doing with their lives. But me, I'm still on the road, heading for another joint because Bob Dylan always on the road. If this is about him,
yeah,
and then we always did feel the same. And these lines, like your line is excellent because it leads into him singing, "We just saw it from a different point of view and then tangled up in blue." And
yeah.
I think that blue imagery is definitely inspired, or my theory. Like, no,
Uh-huh.
don't come at me, fact checkers, but Joni Mitchell's Blue album, Tangled
Oh,
Up in
yeah.
Blue, that imagery.
That is a
And
point.
I could be wrong though. I'm not sure, but if
No, I
Joni Mitchell had an influence on this album, I mean,
she totally did.
And Cheech, this line, you'll love this one. She lit a burner on the stove, and again, so poetic. Like definitely, like you
Oh, no,
mentioned it.
it's so poetic. This album, the whole album.
The whole album. If anyone wants a crash course on poetry, I mean, just listen to this
Yeah.
album. Like,
Well,
she lit
like
a burner on the stove and offered me a pipe. I thought you'd never say hello, she said. You look like the silent type. Then she opened up a book of poems and handed it to me, written by an Italian poet from the 13th century, Dante Alighieri, the Divine Comedy.
wait, he says Dante in the song or no?
No, but name checks him. So she opened up a book of poems and handed it to me, written by an Italian poet from the 13th century. And look what Dylan says. And every one of them words rang true and glowed like burning coal, pouring off of every page. Like it was written in my soul from me to you, and then once again tangled up in blue. And why? Because Dante Alighieri, who wrote the Divine Comedy, right?
Yeah.
Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso,
Hmm.
dude, it's an epic Dante searching for his love, and he doesn't
Right.
meet her until he gets to heaven. So it's like that. He just makes it epic, like and
Yeah.
mystical.
And hold that thought because I did bring up distance upon friendship. So there was a
Hmm.
line. So that was something losing friends probably from fame or from broken relationships. You know that does happen when you get out of a relationship. You might have had
Yeah,
friends, you don't see them anymore because they pick sides and shit like that. Um, Funny how Dante comes up in Iron Maiden episodes, uh,
I
Bob
know,
Dylan
dude.
episode,
That's how you know they're awesome.
uh, and another is it was another one. I forgot another band. I don't think it was Zeppelin. Maybe it was Rush. Dante came up. Crazy.
I think it was Rush. I think it was,
Yeah.
but this song is amazing, and I love what you said. Distance, this distance, disintegration, friendship being lost. Because you're right. If you were friends with like your former, lovers, uh, friends, that's
Yeah.
gonna disintegrate. Like
Oh,
everything disintegrates, especially marriage. Like it's pretty
I went. I,
brutal.
I went through that when I got
Yeah.
divorced first time. Um, I lost friends because they got to pick sides. The second time I could have gave a f about losing the friends on that side. You know what I mean? So, but it does happen.
Oh, Cheech, one more thing. Epic line here. Dylan has often, this is my notes. Dylan has often stated that the song took 10 years to live and 2 years to write.
Wow, that's amazing. That's genius. I just love the Dante quote in there.
I think that's the coolest line in there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the carpenter's wife, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Got
Carpenter's wife.
Wasn't there a song? If I were a carpenter and you were if I were a carpenter and you were an old
Oh,
band
maybe.
song.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe it was Gordon Lightfoot. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
No, and that's crazy. Just going back to, no, I think you're right with what you said. No, and just going back to the carpenter's wife's line, I love because I think he's talking about like different kinds of women here. Like some are mathematicians, some are carpenter's wife. Yeah, Mother Mary, the Saint Joseph,
Yeah,
um, and I love what he says. I don't know how it all got started. I don't know what they're doing with their lives. Like, um, but yeah, it's just an
yeah.
epic contemplation on.
Comparing women to certain other women.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, compare somebody to the carpenter's wife. That's a good woman. You know what I mean? That's a good girl right there.
If you have a carpenter's wife, yeah,
That's the girl you gotta find. that's the
yes, the carpenter's wife.
yep.
Yeah, yeah. That's the nickname for a good girl.
The carpenter's wife. Yeah, who she'll be loyal. She'll be true. She won't be doing stories on Facebook.
Or like posting videos or something, and like or sticking a knife behind your back, or doing like witchcraft or something.
Or giving texting out her number to the guys at work. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Oh, what was the?
I'm
What
gonna
was
keep.
the? Oh, she's not a lamia. The lamia is the one
Yeah,
you got to watch out for.
yeah. Lamia's. Watch
Oh,
out.
Oh, and one more line, dude, that I thought was like stunning. Yeah, this whole song is really amazing. And you know what's funny? Like the way Dylan sings it, like the song is so it like it doesn't sound sad. Like musically, it's amazing. It's like very folky,
Yeah,
beautiful Joni Mitchell inspired number. But when you look at the lines, they're they're pretty sad. Like, look, she was married when we first met, soon to be divorced. I helped her out of a jam, I guess, but I used a little too much force. And I'm trying to figure out the sadness.
that's
We
that's
drove.
that's straight up Sarah.
Oh
The
yeah,
first.
100%, 100%. And says here, we drove that car as far as we could, abandoned it out west, split up on a dark, sad night, both agreeing it was best. She turned around to look at me as I was walking away. I heard her say, "Oh, this line is so devastating." I heard her say over my shoulder, "We'll meet again someday on the avenue," and then once again repeats, "Tangled up in blue." I'm like,
Yeah.
they're not gonna meet again. It's like
No.
they're parting. Yeah, like you said, his wife Sarah.
And this is Jacob's mother, Sarah.
Yep, yep. So we're off to a good start.
Yeah, that was amazing, man. You did a great job on that. I mean, I didn't get that deep because I couldn't. It was too many lyrics. I was like, I don't.
No, it's dense. Yeah.
I was like, hope I do good on the next ones. Simple twist of fate.
Beautiful song.
Now this is where Jacob Dylan might have been talking about his parents talking.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
A romantic rendition, a romantic relationship destined not to work out. It begins with the third person talking, and it shifts into the first. Could it be about Suze Rotolo, Joan Baez, Sarah Dillon, and I forget the lady that he left her for. I forget her name.
Mm-hmm.
The girl. Let's just call her the girl from Columbia Records. A man dealing with the aftermath of a broken heart. I love this part here. Each verse is like a snapshot what the relationship was like.
Yeah.
Talking about being human, laying out your feelings, lost love and the passage of time. So each verse is really talking about like a snapshot of what went on in that relationship. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
got. You know. Um, and it's also it's like a poetry form. And some of the things I liked was like, hear the ticking of the clocks in the walls along the parrot that talks.
Mm-hmm.
People talk to me in sin and know and feel too much within. So it's straight up poetry.
Yeah.
How you feel about that analyzation? I didn't go crazy.
Oh no, you got it. I mean, this song is sort of it's each line is so well thought out. It's so poetic, and it's funny because he starts out the first, just so our viewers how poetic it is. He starts out, hey, again, Dylan's a poet. They sat together in the park, so in the third person, as the evening sky grew dark. She looked at him, and he felt a spark tingle to his bones. His descriptions are so good. And then he says "twas." Every time a poet uses "twas," like very fancy.
Yeah.
"'Twas then he felt alone and wished that he'd gone straight, and then watched out for a simple twist of fate." And that simple twist of fate, kind of like, it's very poetic line.
Yeah. And that was is going back to like Walt Whitman, Charles
Yeah,
Dickens. It's an
yeah.
old term. Even Mark Twain. That was an old poetic "twas," meaning like
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
And the clock thing is really excellent, dude. Where he says he hears the ticking of the clocks, right? So you gotta kind of like
Yeah.
sound it out, and walks along again. Great rhythm, and walks around with a parrot that talks. Hunts her down by the waterfront docks where the sailors all come in. Maybe she'll pick him out again. How long must he wait? Once more for a simple twist of fate. And I love the last line, the last verse, People tell me it's a sin to know and feel too much within. What do you think about
I
that?
love that line. You know, people tell me it's a sin to feel too much within. That's a thought
Yeah,
provoking. Like,
very thought. What do you think? Is that true? I think so.
say it again, so my brain. It's like so.
Yeah. So yeah, don't Dylan hit you with this. If he this is a stunning line. So they tell Bob Dylan or anybody, and I feel like this is sort of a, you know how we say like we're old souls and like,
Yeah.
we're people that probably overthinker sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So he,
Big time.
so he says people tell me it's a sin, which is a great line, to know and feel too much within. So like to know and feel too much inside your mind.
Yeah.
um People are telling him don't do that, it's a sin because it's going to lead you on bad paths.
Yeah. If you know too much about something, you know what I mean. Should you be honest? Should you release what you know? Is that the sin?
Right, right.
You know, if you know this relationship is bad for you, but you're staying in.
No, no, and you just said it, because on the next line, look what he says. I still believe she was my twin. Literally, you just said it. I still believe she was my twin, but I lost the ring. She was born in spring, and this is so devastating, but I was born too late. Blame it on a simple twist of fate.
Yeah. Yeah. I could totally relate to that, the sin thing, holding it in. I did that a lot in a relationship. You know, I held stuff in, and I thought if I came out, I'm going to be the bad person.
Right,
And in reality, be the bad, be because you're
right,
not the bad person. You're being the honest person. There's a difference.
right, right, right,
You know,
right.
it's not
And
as
honesty is no, and honesty is, I feel like, that's to know and feel too much within honesty.
just be
So
honest. What he's saying is, and if you're in a relationship, it doesn't have to be even in a relationship. It could be with a friend. It could be with a bandmate. It could be with anything. Kid, be honest. Tell the truth.
right,
You know, don't
right, right.
just suck it up and walk away because you're going to lose in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's funny? And it's interesting. He makes sort of like a Neil Peart thing here, with he blames everything on fate. So in a sense, it's like he's letting go of his free will. It's not me. It's a simple twist of fate. Like, what do you think about that?
I believe it. I believe in fate, man. You know, I think everything is fate. You know, God's will is God's will and
Oh,
fate.
oh, oh. No, and Cheech, one more thing before I forget. And then this brought me, and then you can keep going. This brought me to your text when you were arguing with a certain somebody about true love. Because is true love, how is true love dictated? Is it fate, right? Is it a simple twist of fate? What do you think?
Oh God. Well, it's
And I
even
say because you're a sage, because you've been in marriages, you
yeah.
have a beautiful child. So, what do you think?
Uh, I I think when it comes down to it, like you have one, you know, you have that one true
Right.
love, and in order to make it work, got to go back to telling the truth. You know, I, th- you know, and I believe fate is going to bring people together. And this is where we had an argument with me and this person. Like, so fate. Would you say fate is God's will, and fate is the same?
We'll see. Well, what now? I guess let's take a quick philosophical detour. See, that's what matters. So, depending on your philosophy, if you think so Rush and free will, Rush are kind of little agnostic, atheistic, because, as Getty sings, you can believe in some celestial being,
Yeah,
or even if you decide not to, you're still made a choice. So, I will
yeah,
believe in free will, and I will assert my free will.
yeah,
So that's a impersonal free will. But if you believe that God is fate, I mean, dude, that's like that changes your worldview. So
yeah.
it uh, and obviously you and I are God believers, so I don't
Yeah.
know,
I
where
mean,
you put
I believe in
God in all this.
I believe in God's will and fate are almost the same thing. You know what I mean? Like it's
100%. No,
because
100%.
will you to do something and you're going to be successful or not, and that's the free will because you had the will to do it. You know what I mean? But like that argument that I had with that person, I said, and it gets really ugly. We got to talk about it off. I guess. Well, I'll bring it up now. Now there's a thing going on where
You don't have to go too detailed. Just keep
I
because
keep it G
yeah,
rated.
just to respect. Yeah, and to respect our fellow workers.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now there's a thing where I think I mentioned it. Three people can be are in relationships, and
yeah, yeah,
it's illegal to be married. But and that was the argument. I said, no, you can't. I okay. I can't speak for anybody but me. I couldn't be in love with two women at the same time and be in a relationship. I couldn't.
right, right.
I could get
Now
lust
let me tell you. Uh,
and in love with the other,
um,
right.
yeah, yeah, and you being married. I mean, is that possible to do?
No, no, you can't. You can't because the guy who cheats on his wife might be in love with her, but he may have a girlfriend for pure lust. That's it. And she
Right,
falls.
right,
And we talked about this in another episode, and it becomes fatal attraction, that kind of thing.
right, right,
But I
right.
feel, my opinion, you can only fall in love one time. You get one true love, and if it doesn't work out, and you're like these guys or girls that go and get married again, that doesn't work out. They get married again because they're searching for something that does not exist. It's gone.
Yeah, that's such a great point. That's
And the
such a
person
great point.
I feel sorry for is the man or woman who's widowed. Now that's pain because
Oh, so sad.
that true love was taken from you. Most true loves end at some point. Hopefully people will stay together like my parents for 56 years, or people's parents that stay together forever. But I don't think that's going to happen in the next 100 years. The divorce rate's going to go up, I think, and then you're going to have crazy stuff like being in a relationship with being with a three people, and I'm like,
Right.
three people. How? Like, I don't get it. I mean, I'm old school. I was raised Catholic. I'm not saying I'm a choir boy or an altar boy because believe me, I'm not. But I mean, I believe you fall in love with one person and you stay with one person. That's how I was
Right.
raised. You don't cheat. You could lust in your mind like Jimmy Carter. I've sinned in my mind. But like if you pursue it, you know, then you're not really doing the right thing. And then my mistake in my life, I had the one that got away, and I just thought like, all right, I'll do it again with some other one to have part two. But I wasn't in love. I wasn't in love. Um, I was always searching for that that hole that existed. You know, and I didn't find it. Obviously. So you
Hmm.
only you only get one. Now this person at the temple, who's a younger person, that the values are a little different, and they believe you can fall in love, once, twice, three times, four times, and you can't. You can't. I mean, it, like, I mean, it's like saying, I mean, when you have more than, I only have one kid. If I had two kids, I would still love that kid equally. I wouldn't love one kid more than the other kid. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
something like
Right.
that. But you get one shot. It's just my opinion, and people could put right in the comments how they feel about that. And it has to do with Dylan. It has to do with the Dylan. And
Oh,
Dylan made
100%.
well, Dylan made the mistake, but it worked in his favor because he got some good songs out of it. He was searching for that second and third and fourth love, you know. And if he
Right.
married now, is Bob Dylan? He's married now, I think, right?
That is a good question. I have no idea.
Because he's still probably thinking about the Rotolo girl who passed away as his true love, for the rest of his life. There's that one that got away.
Right. Right.
You're always going to be comparing or thinking. That's just my 2 cents on it. But I don't get the three.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna hold off on my, you know, for my opinions, you know, live on here. But no, but the point is, like, this has to do with Dylan because,
Yeah.
you know, Dylan is on that problem you just mentioned where he's a soul searcher, and because he's a poet and musician, it comes out in his music.
Yeah, it worked in his favor. He's searching for Suze Rottola, Joni Mitchell, Sarah Lones, and then this girl from Colombia, and then he probably dumps her. So he could have not just been satisfied with the woman, but I think his one true love got away, who he would have been with, you know, Suze Rottola, But anyway,
Right.
before we get too into philosophical, let's move on to music. Did I do the music? No.
For this one, I think you
Yeah.
did. Wait. Yeah. Or actually, no. Go.
Uh, nice mellow groove, nice chord progression, great bass line, very simple song, powerful
Mm-hmm.
vocal. The bass does an awesome descending line in pedal tones. It's in the key of
Yeah.
E major, a descending melodic line over the chords. And they actually took the chord progression from a Frankie Valli song called "I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You." Um,
Yeah.
there's a sparse minor chords in the song, nice harmonic solo ending with guitar, uh, you know, um, like strumming. So they took it from Frankie Valli, the
Yeah.
chord progression, which I thought was cool. Yeah. You're a
I
big
can hear. I can hear it. Like I can hear it.
yeah, and that's a beautiful song. That song's
Oh,
beautiful.
dude, that's one of the greatest songs. And Frankie Valli's a crooner. He started on that weird '50s vocal, like doo wop, and then he became a crooner.
Yeah, like Sherry,
Yeah.
Sherry.
Well, that's the doo wop kind of. I don't know what inspired him to sing like that. I mean,
Well,
I think it's
he's
great,
innovative.
but it's dated.
Nobody sang that. It's falsetto.
No, no. Yeah,
I don't think bands sang like that. I mean, there were kids like Frankie Lyman, and who's the other young kid? Anthony, little Anthony and the Imperials. They were kids. They were like 14
yeah,
years old, like that. So he kind of took the falsetto of like what guys like King Diamond are doing now, like in the metal world and singing that real high pitched voice. But or the
yeah.
Bee Gees.
It's funny because he got it. Oh, yeah, you're right. The Bee Gees kind of would do that too,
Yeah,
but with songs like "Can't Take My Eyes Off You," he developed that famous croon, which
beautiful,
was kind of
beautiful.
interesting and made one of the greatest songs. And I hear that rhythm actually. Like I hear the chords
Oh
with
yeah,
this
yeah,
song,
yeah.
but different type of song because "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" is beautifully romantic. This one is heartbreaking. Like
And
even the chord, the way.
and he might not have stole it. It's just like you might write a song that happens to sound like another song, and it just happens, and you
Yeah,
just go,
yeah.
a million times. Um, you're a big girl now. Okay. Two lovers breaking up. He begs the lover to take him back. This is obviously inspired by, Sarah. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the former lover has moved on, holding on to the memories, pain, and struggle, and he comes to terms with lost love. But I don't think it's
Mm-hmm.
Bob Dylan. I think it's Sarah begging him
100%.
because he's gone. He's got a new girl now, and he's not gonna go back. He left. Poor Jacob Dylan, man. That had to suck.
I know.
That's the thing.
I
Like,
know. I mean, he said no, dude. Probably listening to his album is so, like heartbreaking.
yeah, because he's still a kid. Your father is Bob Dylan, but he's not Bob Dylan. He's dad. You don't know him as Bob
Right.
Dylan, superstar, a genius, or artist.
Right.
He's your dad,
Right.
even mom for some chick, and that had to have it. I don't care who you are. It impacts the person. When mom and dad break up at a young, and he was young. 'Cause he's like friggin'
Oh, I dude, from a psychological perspective, yeah, dude, the impacts of separation are devastating on children.
Yeah, yeah. So so that's what I think.
And this song, you're right, and on point. You're right. This song is that conversation, and Dylan saying, "You're a big girl now."
Yeah, you're a big girl now, and it's Sarah's approach. Uh, coming not Bob Dylan begging her. Sarah is begging Bob Dylan. Excuse me, Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the music is nice, mellow. It has a soft rock feel, romantic song, very
Yeah.
slow.
Yep.
Nice chord progression, pretty guitar, a nice story, great rhythm
Yeah.
set, great strumming. I would call this an AM gold song and a nice harmonica
Yeah.
ending. So this
You
is
said it. You said it really best. That was good. Yeah.
this is a total AM gold song.
This might be the one of the best AM Gold songs, next to like all the great stuff from Little River Band and America and all that good
Yeah,
stuff. I I,
and this
I hear the sound of it.
this is in the peak of that. 1975 is when
Yeah. Yeah.
Cat Stevens, America, Little River Band, England Dan, all these great
Oh,
you know
Steely Dan. There's
um
so much great ones.
Soft Cell, you could go on, and Ambrosia, so many,
Yes.
so many great
Oh, Christopher Cross.
Criss Cross, Sailing, uh Air Supply. Talk about love songs. That I
Oh,
had that
yeah, no.
love that album. And our boy Cat Stevens, Jim Croce, all these
Dude,
great.
I feel like that, dude. I feel like that's one of the best genres of music. That's why I do not like yacht rock. Like they
Yeah.
keep calling it that. And dude, look at these, like some of my favorite songs, like "What a Fool Believes" by the Doobie Brothers,
Bob,
"Sailing."
Bob
Michael
Denver.
McDonald was so good. Yeah,
Mhm.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Toto, "Player," "Baby Come Back" is so good.
Yeah.
Boss Skaggs, dude. Brandy, "You're a Fine Girl."
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, oh, remember
I
Rupert Holmes? He had this one song, and
I covered that song with the band once. Brandy.
Escape the Pina Colada song, and the whole album. And yeah, that's the Looking Glass, Brandy.
Yeah, yeah. Great band. One hit wonder, but that's such a
And
deep.
you're a big girl now too. Put it up there.
Yeah, yeah, and it probably wasn't played on AM radio. It was probably just like a throwaway song almost, on that album. It's Tangled Up in Blue is what everyone thinks of, you know.
You know, it's funny. I say it with so much love. I feel like "You're a Big Girl Now" is the throwaway song, but Dylan probably has so much great songs that come. This is probably the throwaway, like the AM one. Like, all right,
Yeah.
but all right, put it out there. Tangled Up in Blue.
But maybe he put it out there with the AM gold in mind, like because he's Bob Dylan,
Yeah,
country rock and electric rock,
yeah,
folk rock, and AM gold was at the peak. Stills and Crofts, Summer Breeze.
yeah,
You got me
yeah.
thinking that. Loggins in Messina. There was so much great stuff. Okay, here's the one you talk. Idiot Wind.
Oh, this is probably the you know how he has those long songs uh like Desolation Row, and actually he has another long one which we're going to talk about, the Jack of Hearts one, but this song I argue is one of the it's like one of the crown jewels on the album. Like for some odd reason I love it.
It's amazing. So once again, uncertainty, openness, and darkness, past, lost, love. Someone has got it in for me. He has no idea who is doing this or indeed why they are doing it. Now, there's so many routes you can go with this. Is it the stories in the press that's about him, the media images and distorted facts? Is it about a woman? Is it written to Sarah when they were separated? Is there regrets? The idiot win could be Bob Dylan's regret for leaving, mistakes and regret and longing. be with Sarah. That's my take on it. I don't know how you feel.
No, I think you got it because you can take this song. Yeah, you can take this song in many ways. Just, I mean, just starting from the get go, someone's got it in for me. They're planting stories in the press. Whoever it is, I wish they cut it out. I wish they cut it out, but when they will, I can only guess.
Yeah.
They say I shot a man named Gray. Funny how he takes it here. They say I shot a man named Gray and took his wife to Italy. She inherited $1 million, and when she died, it came to me. I can help if I'm lucky. Like, yeah, this could be his tumultuous relationship with the press. And again, he probably thinks of the press as idiot wind, like
Yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
dumb. Like they'll plan a story, something I shot a man there, and people will believe it. And you can like look at the you can look at the whole song and sort of, all right, could be that. And definitely what the other guess is Sarah Lowndes, where
Yeah.
he's getting really aggressive here though. Like
Oh yeah. Maybe he
um
feels bad.
he
He's an idiot that he left her. You know.
no, and it's crazy you say that because and just before I had this thought, one of the reasons I love this song is the urgency in it and the way he sings it. He sings like, someone's out to get for me. And then the way he's like, they're planting stories in the press. Like, remember how we say, like, he has that weird melody style of singing?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Like, a weird, no fee or we, like, they kind of parrot it. But in this song, it's really good. And especially when he sings the chorus, like idiot wind blowing every time you move your mouth. Like he's just like
Oh,
aggressive, and but but towards the end, one of the most heartbreaking parts of the song is he says idiot wind blowing through the buttons of our coats, like blowing through the letters that we wrote. Idiot wind blowing through the dust upon our shelves. And then he says, we're idiots, babe. It's a wonder we can even feed ourselves. Like, it ends up like in a heartbreaking note where, I think Bob Dylan's calling, again, if we go with the theory that's about Sarah, you're an idiot, babe. And then at the end, he says, you know what? We're idiots. And it's a wonder we can feed ourselves. Like,
is he
it's great.
is he the idiot for leaving her,
Well,
or is,
well, that's the thing. The song kind of makes it ambiguous.
yeah? I think maybe he's calling himself an idiot for another failed relationship. But yeah, he
Yeah. Yeah.
got the girl. He has another girl, so he kind
Right.
of has addiction maybe for leaving women and finding. He was one of those guys that was never satisfied.
No.
With the relationship. I mean, who leaves a woman and a child? I mean, I know you're Bob Dylan and you can get any chick you want, but in the ethical sense, it's like kind of who does that? Even Plant, as many girls as he hooked up on the road, he stayed with his wife for a pretty long time. Like those guys stayed Bonham. They stayed married. You know, maybe
Mm-hmm.
their wife looked the other way, but I don't know. But they didn't. There was no divorce. And that's what I love about Rush. Like they were all married.
Yeah, I feel like that's it's funny for all um they're kind of religious in that they stayed in their monogamous um faithful marriage till the end. And Neil Peart,
That,
sadly, we know the story.
yeah,
You talked about Widow and the devastating effects,
he
and luckily
was.
he found love.
They didn't get married, him and his wife, but they were
Right,
together.
right, right,
That
right.
year, you know. But he was with her for all those years. So I always admired that about bands. Stayed with their one woman, and
Right.
then, well, who knows who everyone they have chicks on the side, they're rock stars. Who knows? You know what I mean? You don't know. The music is interesting. Starts in A minor. This is where I'm going to get a little music nerdy on you. Then it goes to a B sus with an E in the bass. Then it goes to an unexpected C sharp, G sharp, A, and E. The pre chorus is an A sus. and it replaces. So basically, a sus chord is when you replace the third. So you don't make it major or minor, and you add a second or a fourth.
Mhm.
So a second makes it like a ninth, where it's dissonant. A fourth makes it
Hmm.
like an 11th, where it's jazzy almost. It's like a jazzy one. It's a nice groove, great keyboard part, great bass line. Can't stop saying that about this album. Great dynamics. Uh, you know, great pre-chorus, amazing melody, great chorus as you were singing. I love the chorus doesn't leave your head, you know.
No, there's something addicting about it, and I guess for if you anyone out there that listens to the song for the first time will be saying, why you guys keep talking about this song? But the more you keep listening to it, the more it gets in your head, and the way Bob Dylan sings it. I mean, I'm gonna parody it, but he goes like "idiot win," like he's singing like blowing out, like he's like yelling like a circle around my skull, like
You can make this a
it.
pop
It's like
rock song, you know, if you want it.
dude, that's why I love it. All it takes is like someone to make a rocking version of the song, and you can have a punk version too. I don't know if Sid Vicious covered this song,
Huddersfield Jacks maybe could do this one. I tell
but
Bobby,
Bobby, this might be one of your covers.
yeah, it's such a great song. I love the drum and high part at the end, harmonica solo. Very long song, 7 minutes and 49 seconds, and you know what they do a lot?
Yeah,
They fade out, which is a new concept, and that was probably Phil Ramone.
yeah.
He probably was bringing that fade out in. You know, like
Well,
he didn't fade out a lot. You
no,
know,
no, no. Remember what we talked about on like John Wesley Harding and Nashville Skyline, where there's some unfinished quality about those songs. Phil Ramone, this time being an expert producer, says, "No,
yeah,
Dylan, let's flesh out the song and end
yeah.
it."
Even Bob Johnson, he captured a sound, but he wasn't a great producer for Phil Ramone. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
but he's not. And I think this made Phil Ramone really popular. I could be wrong. I got to research it, but I think the
yep,
Blood Out Back, made him do The Stranger and everything like that. What an amazing.
right.
If I'm not mistaken, I think my bass teacher's one of his bands he was in was demoing with Phil Ramone. He was working with him like in the '90s. You know.
Oh wow. Now, but Phil Ramone's dude, his work on Billy Joel's "The
Oh,
Stranger." Oh, dude,
amazing.
he what he did with Billy Joel, and I believe he worked on 52nd Street, his follow up album, which is also a masterpiece, and what he was able to capture, and he's able to sort of craft like really like I feel like he's one of the great producers of the '70s, who crafted the sound of the
Well,
'70s.
look what he did in the '80s. All the bands he
Well,
did,
that
Madonna.
too. Well, yeah, right.
He took it. He just grew and grew and grew as a producer. Although like '80s, not the greatest, production, but listen to a Madonna album. It's produced really well for '80s production.
Yeah,
For keyboards and sampling and all that, and Cyndi Lauper. Those
right.
those just have fun. Those are great songs. Really, those are
Oh
great
yeah.
art. I
Oh yeah.
mean, don't hate me for saying this, people, but Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, like they had some really good songs, and they knew how to produce albums. Back then.
Yeah.
I was running out and buying it, but I was watching it on TV crazy as a kid. Okay, you're gonna make me lonesome when you're gone. Um, so according to Dylanologist, his most masterful love poem ever. It's about him again,
Mm.
Sarah, being with Ellen Bernstein. We'll try to remember that name. Um, it's influenced by Anton Chekhov, a famous Russian
Mm.
writer. To surrender to a new love and leave the old love. The excess of love, the past love, will always be a part of him. The main theme is him leaving Sarah and feeling he had and the feeling that he is a farewell. Um, love and loss, change and moving on. It's pure poetry. Purple clover
Yeah.
queen, lace crimson hair across her face. I mean, dude, I'm gonna say that again. Purple clover queen Anne lace crimson hair across her face. I love that line.
Hmm. Great line.
I've seen love go by my door. Never been close before. And there's one I probably can't understand my handwriting about dragging clouds. So, and I've only I don't know. I can't handwriting, but it's very John Keats, Robert Louis Stevenson, and author Arthur Rimbaud farewell uh, poem. So
Yeah.
this is pure poetry, man. At its best, I think.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you said it best. Yeah, pure poetic song, and yeah, I could see why it's one of his best.
Yeah, Dead Poet Society, right there, man. Like amazing.
Yo, seriously, seriously. I mean, dragging clouds so high above. I've only known careless love. It's always hit me from below. This time around, it's more correct. Right on target, so direct. You're gonna make me lonesome when you go.
Almost
So
stole it
once
from.
again, devastating.
It's almost like it's so good. It's like he had to steal it from somebody, like John Keats.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's amazing. Okay. Um, nice harmonica intro. Great chords. Very sad and poetic lyric. Once again, great bass line. Nice sing harmonica with a fade out. Again, every album there's a concept with Bob Dylan. This album is fade out. We always talk about harmonica endings or something. This album, it's the fade out. It's always there.
It brings the song into well, most of the songs in this album to a nice conclusion.
Yeah, and it's not that abrupt ending where
No.
beautiful lyrics. Anyone who was into poetry, poets that I mentioned, Robert Louis Stevenson, John Keats, you know, um, check those guys out too. If you're into romantic poetry, that's what Dylan was reading.
Hmm.
Okay, here we go. Meet me in the morning. Man, this is a great one. This reminds me of a band I was in. I was in a band with a really great singer who sang like Ozzy. He sang and he looked like Ozzy, and when we stabbed it was pretty scary. How good. It was a band called Deep River Meltdown. Guy's name was Mike, and the guy was just like metalhead Ozzy freak. And then one time, he brought this song to attention, and he's like, "You like Bob Dylan?" And I'm like, "You listen to Bob Dylan?" I'm like, "Dude, we're listening to like Metallica." Like, yeah, dude, you got it. We got to do this song. We were also doing Robert Johnson shit. So don't mind that. We were doing the blues.
Right.
He goes blues, and I remember doing this song and learning the bass, really studying the bass line and going like, "Wow, this is a
Mm.
line." So meet me in the morning. Uh, meet me in the morning is about a woman treating him unkind. A sinking ship is heart. She's gone. Every day is dark since she has been gone. Losing, heartbreak. He's trying to mend the relationship. Verse 2. The rooster, he is he is quoting. Now, I don't know what this is. Maybe help me. You know a lot of English. Aphorism.
Where's that in the line?
No, it's what he's using. It, it's a And I'll explain it. You know what that is? Like aphorism, orphism, an orphism, or
Oh, aphorism.
yeah.
Wait, aphorism.
Yeah. The
So
and this
those are like those are sayings like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like
exactly.
it's like a
And this is what a Dylanologist is saying about the rooster and about the darkest hour, comparing the rooster to
mm,
himself. He wants to improve the relationship. How do you say aphorism?
right
You know,
aphorism. But also that could be a reference to like remember the Judas rooster, Jesus
oh yeah, that's true too.
as well. Could be a little reference to that.
And the Dylanologist brought that
And
aphorism up. Actions speak louder than words. Um,
oh
you know,
oh, an
uh,
aphorism, another one. They say the darkest hour is right before the dawn. I think that might be
that
one.
that's what they meant. Yeah, you just nailed it. That's what that
Right.
is. So he's
And,
using.
and this is probably the only blues sounding song on the album too.
Yeah. It totally is. He always has one or two. The real. Um,
Yeah, and I love how the song is so mellow and great. Where and his singing style is so good. It's like he's like meet me in the morning, 56 in Warsaw.
yeah.
Meet me in the morning. Like it's great. Like the intro and everything.
Um, it's his, and it's basically he's expressing truths about life. I think there's a reconnection with a past love. He wants to get back together. Could be
Yeah.
back to what's her name, Ritola. Sue's Ritola. So that's basically what I got out of that. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I think it's pretty good. I mean, the song is a little not absurd, but definitely all over the place in terms of what it might be trying to say. Again, and yeah, aphorisms are there are a lot of aphorisms in there, and definitely like that blues kind of like you know they say the darkest hour is right before the dawn. Then they say the darkest hour is right. Like I'm not doing a good job singing it, but it's great, especially with like the song and melody
Oh yeah.
and great vocal from Dylan.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And I love that.
Yeah,
Aphorism. Dylanologists are taking that.
aphorisms.
I never. I knew what it meant, but I didn't
Yeah.
know it called something. So,
Yeah, aphorisms, and just more of the blues lines, like well, I even outran the hound dogs, honey. I've earned your love. Like it's like
yeah.
that great like blues kind of like style.
Musically, it's a bluesy song, great bass, 12-bar blues. The bass carries the song. Now, if you're a bass player, learn "Meet Me in the Morning." It's classic. It's amazing. Great bass line. I remember learning it, play, and people loved it when we played it. People loved it. They didn't even know it was a Bob Dylan song. I remember with it, tell people. Um, nice drum
Well,
fills.
well, it's funny. It's funny. It doesn't sound like if people forget that Bob Dylan also loved the blues.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's one of the reasons why they kind of oh wait he's
And it ends with a guitar solo fade out. You know, he almost now gets a bit carried away with fade outs. Okay,
right.
you're fading out. And now you're fading out. And it's an art to fade a song out. I think we talked about it. I watched engineers do it. You got to
Yeah,
dial. You just can't do it quick. You got to like do it a different way.
and like record that sound.
Yeah, get it. Now here's the.
I wonder if it's easier now with like AI.
Oh man, anyone using AI to record now, in my opinion, they should be shot because I'm such a Like on,
Yo, don't let a certain somebody from the temple hear you.
I mean, when you record, this is my. Want to hear my theory about recording? Go in a room with
Yeah,
three guys, and you play your music all together into a console that count whatever, board, and they here's your live sound, and then that's it. That's what music is meant. And then you have the singer sing. He'll go back in and re-sing his parts. The guitar player may do an overdub, and the song's over. If you make a mistake, you fix it. Don't have AI fix it or Pro Tools. To me, that's a rock band. Not recording the drums with a click track and then having the guitar go in and then the bass goes in. I had to record like that, and let me tell you, man, it's the most uncomfortable way to do anything because you're not used to that as a musician. You're used to going on stage and playing live, and that's what a good engineer and producer will do, you know, and just cranking up, play live, and that's why the '70s had the best recordings. That's how Zeppelin did it, Sabbath did it.
right,
Of course, Jimmy Page overdubbed like a madman. The basic track live, the drums were live, the guitar was live, the bass was
right. Dude, and it's crazy. Today's music is sounds so produced, so clinical, and I'm not sure if there's. And again, young people will not pick this up unless you're a like you're a musical expert, or I listen, and we both listen to a ton of music. The sounds of the '70s albums, this including Bob Dylan, for example, like Meet Me in the Morning. Like I don't know if there was a click track involved. I would say based on the song's vibe, no, because
no.
there's a naturalness to it that was
Oh,
kind of robbed in in the 80s as things sort of got really produced and sounded a little like too cold, too clinical. Like,
I
and I feel like that's why, and it's so sad because today rock kind of that I mean, unless you love bands like Greta Van Fleet or I don't like Greta Van Fleet, but um I think they're trying to rescue that kind of like naturalness captured live in the studio and having expert producers like Phil Ramone to
well,
capture sounds instead
it,
of you know
it came back in the '90s. The '70s, there was no click tracks. Nobody played to a click track. It was unheard of. In the '80s, I mean, maybe Steely Dan did in the late like Asia and stuff like that, but they didn't even have to do that because they had great drummers like Steve Gadd and stuff. But the '80s was all about the click, though. And I remember being in music school,
no,
and
and you can hear it, and you can hear it.
yeah, and I remember them, my music teachers putting a click track at me, and I I could not play to a click track, you know, and they're like, "Wow, you're having trouble with the click track. Why?" Because I played with. I'm gonna get X G. I played with fucking great drummers my whole life, and a drummer takes a beat and he goes ahead and he goes behind. You know what I mean? That's a good drummer. You're not just
Right.
unless you're playing like metal bars from
No, and
Metallica.
you and no, and you no, and you being no, and you being a bass player. I mean, no offense, like that's the backbone, the drums and the bass.
You
Like
just
they
have to
set up, they're your click track.
breathe. The rhythm has to breathe. Unless you're playing Bach, Mozart, yes, it's going to be on the beat perfectly. And I would always struggle because I wasn't used to playing perfect time. Then I learned how to play classical music, but I would always be behind the beat on Bach or something. And the teachers would laugh and be like, you're making it feel like it's a rock song. You got to be on top of the beat. And I'm just like, I'm gonna steal this and rockify it anyway. I'm not gonna be in an orchestra. Oh, and that would get them that. You know what I mean? You know, I'm gonna steal Bach's lines and rockify it. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but to pass my class, it has to be okay.
Well, see that's the beauty of like rock. That's the beauty of rock music that today, sadly, is gone. Because if you listen to most music, and I'll be honest with you, I think AI has a hand in producing a lot of these tracks where, and auto tune. I mean, we haven't talked about auto tune, but that naturalness. Even no click track necessary unless you're recording, like you said, like orchestra music or really trying to,
Yeah.
professionally keep on beat and time and tempo. But yeah, man, I great
Well,
points.
I think the '80s was the epitome of the clicks, and then Lenny Kravitz came out in the '90s and in the Black Crows, and they were using analog equipment, and they were in one room
Right.
just playing live. They brought that back for a little bit, but it was already, that sound
Right.
wasn't coming back, But that's how I recorded from day one. We just went in a room and we
Yeah.
played. And I would fight with engineers like, oh no, you don't record like that. I'm like, listen to Sabbath's first album, you know? That's what I want it to be like. Be like Black Sabbath. Everyone in a room bleeding to each other. I don't care if the bass gets distorted. I really don't care. Don't give me a click track, please. Just my 2 cents on click track. But for some music you need it. Like
Yeah.
metal, really fast metal, like Slipknot, Metallica, that kind of stuff where it's like it's
Right.
got. But I never played that kind of music, so it wasn't like even Maiden. Maiden didn't. You listen to Maiden, there's no click track on there. Early Iron Maiden, the first
No.
three albums. It's all done live. That's the epitome.
Yeah.
Live metal. Lily, Rosemary, and Jack of Hearts. This is bizarre. Bizarre.
Bizarre song. And
Yeah.
one of those epic, like long surreal ones too.
Jack of Hearts comes to town. I'm almost gonna read this like a little kid's poem. As the leader of a gang in of bank robbers, they rob the bank. Lily is a dancer, um, and she is Big Jim's mistress. Big Jim is the owner of the diamond mines, and he's married to Rosemary, but having an affair with Lily. Jim is killed at the end of the song. Jim's a greedy man who destroys everything he touches. The song takes place in a cabaret. Big Jim and Rosemary are at the show. Lily meets Jack of Hearts to hook up backstage, but Big Jim is going to kill Jack of Hearts. But Big Jim is killed by Rosemary with a penknife. The next day, Rosemary is hung. Jack of Hearts leaves town. Lily wants to kill herself. Absurdity at its finest. It almost sounds like it could be a
Yeah.
weird claymation kind of movies. It's so. I think I got it right. Is that the story pretty much?
I think you got it. And by the way, it has a very it's weird because um remember I told you Springsteen on his first two albums would compose songs like this, like where he would give a little bizarre, put him in a setting, give them weird nicknames like Lily, Rosemary, Jack of Hearts. So this is Bob Dylan. Now I don't know if you got inspired by Springsteen, but if you listen to his album, um, um, actually let me just pull it up because Springsteen did this where he got inspired by Bob Dylan and started to create these sort of like story songs like that,
Yeah.
and he would give nicknames and so this is like one of them, like really really strange song, and I think the longest one I think it's like 9 minutes,
Yeah.
but it's
This.
great. It's your great story song.
Yeah. I didn't put down how long it is on the music, but musically it's country, fast paced, great harmonica in the beginning, cool country bass line, great storyline, cool keyboards, fast drums. Sounds like a circus song. A lot of lyrics, classic Dylan vocals, cool drums. Oh, it's 8 minutes long. Very strong song with harmonica and keys. And again, a fade out. I got a last four in a row, and they're four fade
Fade
outs.
outs.
You know, it almost sounds like a circus. It almost sounds like a parody song. You know, it's
Yeah, yeah.
like set up
No,
the song.
no,
Like
yeah.
everybody,
It's a. You know what's funny? I would argue it's misplaced on the album. It's a little like misplaced.
yeah, it doesn't need. It's almost like a joke. It's a cool, really. It could be a movie. They should have made a. Somebody should make Devante.
Oh yeah, like
It would be a really star
um,
movie.
yeah. Someone needs to get Someone needs to put like a short film or something,
Like
and
remind. I
and
just
just to let you, so
I saw the commercial.
no, check look Lily Rosemary. Oh, go ahead, Cheech.
I saw the commercial for the play Cabaret. You know, it reminds me of that. You know, the play
Oh yeah,
Cabaret. That
oh
kind of
yeah,
that.
oh yeah,
You know, and
yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
somebody should make a movie out of it. Some Dylanologist, like I think it would
Yeah, yeah.
work now.
And just so no, and yeah, no, for sure. And again, like just Lily Rosemary and Jack of Hearts. Like I'm surprised like no one puts this to a film, but I just want to show you like a comparison to Bruce Springsteen's Incidents on 57th Street off his 1973 album, um, The Wild, Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. Because again, it's kind of funny how these two kind of influence each other. Like look at these lyrics. This is from Springsteen's song. Spanish Johnny drove in from the underworld last night with bruised arms and broken rhythm in a beat up old Buick, but dressed just like dynamite. He tried selling his heart to the hard girls over on Easy Street, but they said, Johnny, it falls apart. Johnny falls apart so easy, and you know hearts these days are cheap. And then Dylan's song, the festival's over. The boys were all planning for a fall. The cabaret was quiet except for the drilling in the wall. The curfew had been lifted and the gambling wheel shut down. So my point is like there's some similarities.
Oh
Like
yeah,
these two are so like Springsteen made Bob Dylan better, but then Bob Dylan took it. He's been doing this like these weird story based songs, but
yeah.
I just find it fascinating. But yeah, I'm surprised they haven't made a movie out of it.
It's a total movie. It's like it's amazing.
Yeah.
He tells like a perfect story of bizarre shit, but it's really cool. Yeah.
Cheech. So sadly, the spirit of Judas is creeping in.
Am I free? Am I freezing? Oh boy,
Yeah.
pretty bad. And I got a new plug. I got a new cord. A new.
Yeah. There's a delay,
Okay.
and we hit almost a 2 hour mark. We're at 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah. Do you want to? You want to do? We have what? How many more songs? Shelter from the Storm. We got about three more songs. You wanna maybe do them another time tomorrow?
Uh, I'm trying to think. I mean, as long as because what the problem is like, what how does your end look?
You're perfect. There's no delay or nothing.
It's weird.
I'd
All right.
rather
Let's. So next one is if.
I'd rather hold
Go ahead.
off on the three if it's because Shelter from the Storm is gonna be beast. So you know what I mean. I'd rather.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah, because yeah, I have a lot to say about that one. That might be, and then I mean the last three are masterpieces. If you see her, say hello, Shelter from the Storm, which I this and Idiot Win of the um the high points, and then Buckets of Rain, which is just
Yeah.
But if you want, maybe we can like continue tomorrow if you're available, or
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. We could do tomorrow.
let let's end it again because we hit the 2 hour mark, and on the Cheech and Manny Music Show, we go over the time length of an album. So this is gonna be like maybe like a 3 hour episode, Violence,
Yeah.
Blood, and the Tracks. But just because I'm not sure when's the last time you listened to it, but like, what do you think so far of the album?
I love it. I love it. When I was analyzing it and going through the lyrics, I've always loved this album from like when I covered it. When I covered Me Morning,
Mm,
it was actually probably the only album I listened to in the '70s from him for a long time. You know,
yeah,
like when I
yeah.
thought of Dylan, I was always like, oh, '60s, like a Rolling Stone. All this, all the Blonde on
Mm,
Blonde. But it's a great, and we've talked about it at the Temple for a long time about what a great
Yeah,
album is.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think it's after Desire, it's over. It's this the Basement Tapes you don't count because it recorded.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's I put that in the '60s, and even then, like the Basement Tapes. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing,
Yeah,
but it's a challenging listen because for any Dylan first time Dylan um, listeners out there or has never heard of Bob Dylan, the Basement Tapes was kind of hard for Bob Dylan fans like us and band fans. We're gonna love it
yeah.
because we discuss how Bob Dylan shaped the band sound. But obviously, there's some golden nuggets on the Basement Tapes.
Yeah.
But
What
when it
year?
comes to this album and Desire,
What year was the Basement Tapes recorded?
like late 1960s, it's like around John Wesley Hardin, around
Okay,
Blonde on Blonde, around that time period.
so I think it was John Wesley Harding that came out the same year. So
Yeah,
they were recorded the same year. I mean, this is what I got to research on it. Why didn't he put it out? And why did he go John Wesley Harding folk? Because it's rootsy
right.
rock.
That would be a worthwhile question. That would be a worthwhile question to explore. But yeah, at the Temple we talked about this album for the longest time, so I'm happy we're doing this, and I consider it one of his best. Like it's
Oh yeah,
dude, it's one of the greatest albums in like rock music history.
I,
And I'll be honest, if you were gonna listen to one Bob Dylan only, this might be it because everything is perfected. It's his most mature album. Like every
yeah,
song is perfect.
amazing. It really is.
Um, and, and it's the album where, because you know it's funny on Highway 61 Revisited, he's so surreal. Like, don't get me wrong, the songs are amazing,
Yeah,
masterpieces like of '60s counterculture rock,
yeah,
but a little surreal at times. Like it's kind of like inaccessible in a way. This
yeah,
one from the first song, it's actually similar to Blonde on Blonde, where it pulls you in because Dylan finally is a sage in that he's lived life and now
mm,
he's singing about it
yeah.
and what comes out of him. And we haven't talked about Shelter from the Storm, which he combines
Yeah,
Christianity, heartbreak,
yeah. I'd
um,
rather off.
melancholy of life.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure, for sure. And that's why I would argue that's one of his masterpieces. Idiot Wind. Idiot
Yeah,
Wind, like you said, is one of those songs where someone needs to rockify it because it's one of the best rock numbers. And I don't think I think it's a little bit underrated
yeah,
because most
yeah,
people think of Tangled Up in Blue. I when I think of Blood on the Tracks, even the title Blood on the Tracks, I think
yeah.
Idiot Wind, like you
Well,
know,
I think
and Dylan just
everyone thinks of Tangled Up in Blue. That's the song,
yeah, yeah,
And Shelter from the
yeah,
Storm too, but Tangled Up in Blue was like, you know, that's the Knocking on Heaven's Door, Tangled Up in Blue, Shelter from the Storm. Those were the hits he had in the 70s, like
right,
radio.
right,
Other than that, they're all obscure, like like Idiot Wind. They're or this Lily Rosemary song. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't have mega massive hits, you know, like he did in the 60s.
yeah, yeah. And, and no, and those songs are long. I mean, yeah, you're right because "Tangle Up in Blue" was the big hit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But also another problem, and this album was a comeback for him. But I think again, once again, like the problem is in the '70s, he gets kind of eclipsed by the AM radio artists.
He
I
does.
mean, like when you listen to like first of all, Steely Dan. I mean,
Yeah.
dude,
Ricky don't lose.
instrumentally, lyrically,
Ricky
they
don't lose that number. Like stuff like that. Like when
oh, dude, Pretzel Logic, every song on that album.
when you think about it, the guy is such a genius. He started the country rock on Nashville Skyline. He opened the door for that. He started folk
Right,
music. He went electric. Oh, when he stirred up all the folk people. He invented electric folk.
right,
Which led like the Birds and stuff like that. So the Birds, like he invented a sound, electric folk music. He did regular folk music. He
Right.
invented country rock. He also invented AM gold. He invented light rock. The guy's the pioneer for light rock music. Although that movement started
I'll be honest with you.
with
Yeah,
Laurel
like
Laurel.
that confessional style, which like, dude, and Cat Stevens. It's funny how much, and Bruce Springsteen. And I will say, I know this is controversial, but I will say, and again, I guess this might be like a little cheeky for me, but I think Bruce Springsteen eclipsed Bob Dylan, in my opinion, because
Mhm.
he took everything Bob Dylan did, like you said, the roots of it, and
Yeah,
everybody did this. Bob Dylan is he's like the pave maker. He's like the
yeah,
cement. He lays out the cement.
yeah.
But because this year when he released Blood on the Tracks, Bruce Springsteen releases Born to Run, which,
Oh God.
dude, talk about one of the most romantic albums and
Yeah.
epic. And Bruce Springsteen was inspired by his love of Bob Dylan and like the sound of the rock and roll in the 1950s and that Phil Spector wall of sound. So
Yeah.
again, like he took Bob Dylan and kind of perfected it. Like that's the way we always see it. So when Bob Dylan releases Blood on the Tracks, which was a comeback for him,
Yeah.
like AM radio was already playing, sadly, like what Bob Dylan started, even better.
Yeah. Jim Croce, Cat Stevens, all these guys were blowing up
Yeah,
too. And thanks to Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, even Joni
yeah.
Mitchell, it's all coming from Bob Dylan, which is amazing. So, but yeah, so we're at the 2 hour mark now. This was a great episode. We nailed the first 6 or 7
We did
songs.
part one, and hopefully, if you're available tomorrow, we'll record and
Yeah,
I'll,
I'm
I'll
I'm good.
stitch these episodes and release to the
Yeah,
public.
yeah. You just let me know if you could do it earlier or later, whatever. That works for me. And we'll take the last three in the cover, and we'll finish it up.
I think we
So
might spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour on "Shelter from the Storm" because
probably.
that song I've analyzed like that's from so many vantage points.
Oh yeah. I mean, we did 2 hours. We'll probably do another 2 hours tomorrow, easily. On just on shelters of the storm.
Oh, 100%.
And
And mini shout out to Mr. Joe Silkman. Mr. Joe Silkman, let us know what you think about Blood on the Tracks because I know
yeah,
we're turning him on to Bob Dylan once again. He's always been a Bob Dylan fan, but
yeah.
he said that because of us, he's kind of been listening to all his albums.
And that's our goal. We want even the Bob Dylan fans probably might have skipped over some of these songs. Like the Bob Dylan songs on these albums, listen to them. Don't listen to just Knocking on Heaven's Door or Tangled Up in Blue. Listen to, you know,
Oh yeah, no,
Idiot
no,
Wind and the other crazy song, you know, like with Meet Me in the Morning. Like listen to these songs. Don't skip over them. And I think that's what I want to
yeah,
do with Bob Dylan. I want to get those obscure songs out there for people to listen to, and
yeah,
I mean, everybody
yeah,
knows Bob,
yeah,
but there's a lot of songs that people might not know by Bob Dylan that we're trying to push out there. Now I have a
yeah.
question.
I, I'll be honest with you. Like I've been an advocate for. Go ahead.
Um, when when this comes out, will we be at 40 episodes?
I think so because I'm gonna count them, but I'm gonna like definitely like yeah, we're in like 30 mid 30s at least.
Yeah, I was thinking
I'm
about
excited because and all our episodes are getting better. Like you know
yeah.
how we started,
I think we're maybe at 36. I don't know what the last episode was. The John Wesley
something
Hart
like that, something like that.
be 34. So like we're getting real close to 40 episodes,
Yeah,
man. 3,000.
yeah,
We almost got 4,000 views. Like it's climbing up there. So thank you people for watching and liking and subscribing, and it's amazing how it's getting out stuff. It's really good. So
yeah, yeah.
I never thought a year ago from now we would be podcasters. We were just talking about this stuff on Sunday nights.
I know it's crazy.
You know, it's like,
I feel like we're making people envious and certain people envious.
oh yeah, 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 because we're talking about our passion, and we're not talking about Matrix BS that goes along with certain things. Thank God, you know.
I know,
But
I know.
before Judas takes
And,
me away,
and our goal, no, oh yeah, the spirit of Judas, man.
that, that guy, you know. Um, but I'm still good. I didn't freeze up completely.
No, it's just lagging. So
Yeah,
that means that eventually you're about to cut off.
yeah, and it's amazing in this remote. I learned something that I went to the Apple store. If you have an Apple phone, always use an Apple remote. Not remote, charger, because that's gonna work the best. And like you always used an Apple charger, but then AT&T suckered me into an AT&T charger, and that's why I was having my problems. So it's crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, because like you're buying like the second rate product.
Yeah, yeah. I never,
Yeah, so you gotta watch out for that.
I know. So we got, I definitely got my chart. Last week I was bugging on my charger now. But anyway, man, great show. We'll wrap it up, and we'll finish tomorrow. We got, Shelter from the Storm, which is going to be getting close to Easter, so we'll have some religious themes in that. And
Yeah.
any
Oh
last,
yeah, and plus I'm gonna release the Jesus Christ Superstar episode too
yeah,
ASAP because that needs to come out.
definitely looking forward to that. And what else did we do? What did we do last week? Oh, Nashville Sky.
Top 10 Joe Silkman free
Oh,
podcast,
about that
Nashville
Nashville.
Skyline,
Yeah, we got a few coming out. Yeah, and I'm gonna write the basement tapes,
and
and
they're all fun. They're all a fun time.
I'm trying to figure out what came out first. Basement, what was written first? Basement tapes with John Wesley Harding, and why did he decide to go folk opposed to
Mm.
go band? Gotta
That
be,
that'll be like worthwhile questions to explore on that episode.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna look into that. But all right, man. So I got to be at the temple, so we'll wrap it up, and I will see you tomorrow. You just keep me posted. Great episode on Blood on the Tracks by the
Yes,
great.
sir.
All right, Manny. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, brother. We'll continue
And,
this tomorrow.
and Judas will not get me tonight. We're gonna beat him.
I know the spirit of Judas is haunting us right now.
Yeah.
From hell, it's crazy.
All right,
This
man.
is our nickname for when this happens. The spirit of Judas. I love it.
Yeah. All right, brother. You have a great night.
All right, brother. You too.
Take care.
All right. So the Cheech and Manny Music Show, the People's Podcast continues. We are on side B of Blood on the Tracks. And we are continuing Blood on the Tracks. We're going to pretend that we are just continuing from last night's broadcast. And
Yeah.
before we get started, Cheech, man, I got inspired by Bob Dylan, man.
Yeah.
Got something to say to you. Someone's
What-
got it in for me. They're planting stories in the press. Whoever it is, I wish they cut it out quick. But I can only guess.
Oh my
Who's
God.
planning stories, man?
Who's planning stories? Is it have anybody to do from the temple?
No, it's just a little joke. But I just love that song so much. You know how you say, you know how he sings, someone's out again for me. They're planting stories in the press. Like, I love
And
it.
that's wait, what song was that again? That was
That was my favorite Idiot Wind.
and I just
But
talked
by
to
the way,
Bobby.
that's a Temple song too, because man, a lot of Idiot Wind blows
Oh
there.
yeah. I just talked to Bobby about maybe covering that. Well, like 5 minutes ago.
I'll be honest with you, like with Bobby's voice, I hear it.
And like
You guys can make a rocking version.
like punk it up a little bit, like early Maidenish,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I heard you wrote a song.
Yeah, should I sing it or should I kind of spoken word it?
Your choice, man. Bob Dylan does both, so your choice.
Okay. It's called The Spy in the Temple. Now, how could I do Bob Dylan? All right, so now, did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'm back to zero. Okay, you ready? I'm gonna sing it. There's a spy in the temple, and the spy's checking on the citizens, reporting to to the priest that the citizens aren't doing their job. So the priest is telling the other priest to tell the citizens to do a better job. But the priest doesn't realize that the citizens need more help to make their job easier. I saw the Virgin Mary, a leprechaun, and a dinosaur walking down the street. That's my Bob Dylan song.
Dude, I love it, man. It's too true. I can't listen to it because it's too true to life.
Yeah, it's you'll hear all about it.
Oh, you know what? It might play over on the loudspeaker.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a spy in the temple.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
That's going around with spyware and
oh yeah,
taking pictures. So
yeah. I gotta be careful myself because I sometimes, um,
I don't
yeah,
get
no,
it.
for sure.
I wrote that in my head today when I heard the story. I was like, okay,
Maybe you can like introduce it to Bobby and come up, with a song.
yeah, the spy in the temple.
There's a spy in the temple.
Yeah,
Dun 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 dun.
yeah.
Dude, you could give it like that Rush, the witch hunt vibe. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
There's a
Spy
spy.
in the temple.
Dun, 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 dun. Yo, we're making a song live on the Cheech and Manny
Live.
Music Show. We're making a song live. I love it.
Writing song. We wrote an original, The Spy in the Temple.
Great song, man. I can't listen to it because it's too real.
Yeah, no. But anyway, you wanna we left off on if you see her, say hello.
If you see her, say hello. Which I just want to comment before you start. The intro to the song is so beautiful with the organ.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Very beautiful. The organ has such nice flourishes and touches on this album. Like really beautiful.
that's the first thing I wrote. Yeah,
Yeah.
mellow and nice keys. Yeah, yeah. And I was laughing when I was writing this. I was like, if you see her, say hello. And if it was 2025, you could just find her on Facebook or Instagram.
Dude, if you see her, just Facebook her. But now it's not even Facebook
Yeah,
anymore. If you see her, just DM her on Instagram, direct message.
yeah, yeah. Unless you're an old fogey like me and you use Facebook. So he tries to make contact with the girl. He suffers when he hears her name. The name recalls the breakup. There's a distance that exists between them, but he is not. But he doesn't want to get back with the girl. He wants her to feel sorry for him. Maybe not lost love, but resentment. One Dylanologist said. Regret, longing, nostalgia, asking someone to pass a message to her, basically. Like when you're in middle school and you'd give a note to your friend to give to that kid. The kids still do that in class. They just text each other.
So it's funny. I don't know. I should put my students on blast. But shout out to my students if you're watching this episode. Much love from Mr. O and your friend Cheech. It's funny. I catch them, but I'm whatever. They pass notes. Do you remember when the girls used to write on like the boys' books or something, or
Yeah.
a little note? That's pretty cute. They still do it.
That's good. As long as they're passing notes, it's okay. If they're texting,
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I would rather have them pass notes than like text or like whatever.
Yeah.
I think in public schools, since they allow phones, I think that probably is happening. But
texting like
no, it's really cute. It makes you think. It probably makes you think when you were little, the note passing and it's funny. They think they're being sneaky, but I'm like, I see right through you.
Oh yeah. Or cheating too.
Dude,
yeah, we won't go there.
We won't go there. Just but shout out to the students watching the Cheech and Manny Music Show.
Yes.
Much love from your Uncle Cheech and teacher.
You have the greatest teacher you will ever have.
Cheech, love you, man.
Blessed children.
Love it, brother. But dude, yeah, I love your description of the song. I think you got it. It's really sweet. It's really 60s sounding. Would you agree? It has a great 60s vibe.
I bet you I put that in here because well, I'll do the music.
Yeah,
Anything left on the lyrics? You think?
I'll be honest with you. It's really it's you got it. It's not that Bob Dylan wants to be with the girl. It's so bittersweet. I mean, I
Mm,
guess let me one of my notes. I have some verses like we had a falling out, like lovers often will. Right? How true is
yeah,
that? And to think how often she left that night, it still brings me a chill. Even though our separation no, and though our separation, which I think is so autobiographical, it pierced me to the heart. Look how beautiful this is. She still lives inside of me. We've never been apart. If you get close to her, and mind you, I'm doing spoken word, but if you listen and you're gonna explain the
yeah.
music, this is one of the rare instances where Bob Dylan's singing style, the music and the lyrics produces such a beautiful song. It's probably one of the most beautiful songs in the album.
I
If
think
you
so.
get if you get close to her, kiss her once for me, which
Yeah,
such a devastating line, right? She moved on. Always
yeah.
have respected her for doing what she did and getting free.
Mm,
And oh, whatever makes her happy, I won't stand in the way. Though the bitter taste still lingers on from the night I try to make her stay. And I just wanna the last verse is so awesome. Not awesome, but so beautiful.
yeah.
If she's passing back this way, I'm not that hard to find. Tell her she can look me up if she's got the time. And if you wrote the song today, tell her to look me up on Facebook or
Yeah. Hit
Instagram
me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
if she got the time.
Yeah, and all the what's the other one? The one from China,
Oh, TikTok.
TikTok.
If she has the time, find my TikTok dance video.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. Like the beauty. Tell her I said hi, or
Yeah.
give her a
And who do you
letter.
think she's talking? Wait, Cheech, who do you think she's talking to? Who do you think
Who's
he
thinking
is
that?
talking to? Your theory.
Got to go back to Ratola.
Then that you can definitely make a big case for that. Yeah, like if it's not,
It's like,
and it's you know why that's brilliant what you just said. Now Dylan being Dylan, he's like so subversive. He claims this song is not autobiographical. He claims, and you probably have in your notes. I have it here that it's based on an Anton Chekhov short story. That's what he claims, but I feel as though he might be talking like the song "The Girl
was
from the
was
North."
Anton Chekhov the
Yep,
Russian writer?
yep,
Yeah, because I,
fantastic writer.
I mentioned him in another song too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep, yep. A matter of fact, Dylanologists say that. Okay, so Dylan being Dylan says this album is not autobiographical. That's what he claims. And
yeah.
he actually says that he was inspired by Chekhov's stories. Matter of fact, he says that Blood on the Tracks is some of Anton Chekhov's short stories that he was reading.
Wow, that's that. See, there's where Dylan gets you, man. You're kind of like, here we are breaking up the song, saying it's Nance Ratola. Was it Nancy Ratola? I forget.
Susie
Suze
Rotolo.
Rotolo.
The girl, and just for our fans out there, she's on the front cover of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Sarah Lowndes, Joan Baez, the Bernstein girl who worked at Columbia. Those are the four women that have passed through his life over the past decade. That's well known. I'm sure he had many others on the down low. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
those are his, like relationships. Um, but I think it goes back to Seuss. I really do.
Yeah.
But it could be a short story. It could. You don't. That's the mysterious thing
That's
about this guy.
Bob Dylan is such an enigma for that reason. Like you don't know, and he's so brilliant because at first you could be thinking, "Is this about his marriage?" And he poeticizes and romanticizes everything. 'Cause he's such a great poet. But
Yeah.
then it could be about his first love, even from high school, and Suze Rotolo. I mean, lines like "We had a falling out, like lovers often will," and to think how she left that night, it still brings me a chill. Could be Joan Baez, like you saw in the movie, those nights where they would kind of like hook up and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and another great line: "If you see her, say hello. She might be in Tangier. She left here last early spring. Is living there, I hear." So it sounds like somebody in Tangier. I don't know if you know what Tangier is.
No.
It's a city in Morocco. So this person's
Okay.
traveling. So again, going back to the
Well, you
Anton
could.
Chekhov short story aspect, it could be a
Yeah.
short story. I don't know, but the
See,
song is bittersweet.
did Anton Chekhov write romantic? It was all romance,
Yeah,
like
so some of
novels.
his famous, I for all our viewers out there, definitely read. Chekhov is so famous, but yeah, he had since he's Russian. I don't know if you ever read any. He was a Russian playwright and
Hmm.
short story, and he has a bunch of famous ones. And I could be wrong, but I think Dylan was inspired by stuff. There's one that I really like called The Seagull.
Hmm. I think I
And,
heard
and,
of.
and I
I
don't
heard.
know where. No, I'll be honest with you, I don't know where I read this. Probably somewhere like either in Um, I think maybe high school or college, because when you read short story, and it's one of his, it's actually a play, and it sounds actually, you know what's funny? It sounds like a Bob Dylan song. Well, obviously
Yeah,
because Bob Dylan was inspired by this, but it's romantic. It's romance and conflict.
yeah.
So
You brought me back. My first year of college or my second year, I took a short story literature class. Um, and the whole point was reading short stories and analyzing them and write your opinion, like what we're
right,
doing now, you
right.
know. And I was kind of so the Hills of White Belly or something like that. You ever hear that book?
That sounds familiar.
So I read it. I did my homework. This I know it's G rated, but I'll keep it like I read the book, the shorts. They were easy to read. They were like maybe 15 pages.
Right,
I thought it was about a couple that went to Africa or South Africa on a vacation and were having a good time. And I handed it in all confident, and the teacher's like, "Man, were you wrong on this one?" And I'm like, "Well, what is it about?" In 1900, it took place. The guy was taking his girl to get when you have a baby and you get rid of it, keep it G rated.
right.
And I had no idea. I was like, "Show me where it is." And then the teacher pointed it out, and it was everywhere. I just didn't see it. So like analyzation of like literature, like but you're a
Yeah,
master at. I'm getting good at it with lyrics.
right.
You
Well,
know.
lyrics and that's dude, that is really like, you know, it's funny. I've been starting to use. I've always used music and like when I teach stuff, and
Yeah.
analyzing lyrics, I noticed is a skill that not a lot of it takes practice. And I think with
Yeah.
short, I love like I always unlock like the psychological and philosophical, like, um um aspects of anything. And like, for example,
Yeah.
like that short story that you mentioned
Hmm.
has like deep layers that you got to learn sort of how. And one of the hardest ones, and with Bob Dylan, and pushes you to think, is symbolism.
Yeah.
You
Oh
got to
yeah.
understand the symbolism behind the music in order to
Yeah.
understand, first of all, Bob Dylan, the man, because he'll tell you, no, it's not about me. So you'll be
Yeah.
like, wait, what? Then, all right.
I think he's a good liar. He's a deceiver. You know what I mean? He just kind
Wow,
of
100%.
it's all about him. When you write a song, most of the time it's coming from a personal experience, and then you twist it a little bit.
Right,
Any
right.
writer, I'll tell you that, from Bruce Dickinson to Neil Peart, you
That's
put your
true.
personal experience in it, but then you twist it, because you don't want to get too personal. But Dylan's always writing about lovers in the
Yeah.
past three albums.
That's one of his themes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Blonde on Blonde. It's all about love, mostly for,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. But
tales,
like
songs
twisted,
about
but
love.
like the song "Tainted Love." It's all tainted love. It's not, you know what I mean. It's not
Right, right,
not like you know going to California or kind
right.
of a
Or
definitely,
can't take my eyes off you.
which is like, yeah, it's beautiful
Or
song.
She Loves You by the Beatles.
Exactly. There's so many great love songs. Or Guns N' Roses. I used to love her, but I had to kill her. I dedicated that to a few. Great song.
Oh, dude, I love it. Oh, and speaking of Guns N' Roses, they have one of their cover of "Knocking on Heaven's Door."
I
Man,
I
they
think
just. You know what's funny,
I,
Cheech? I was reading people don't like Axl Rose's vocals, like some critics, and I'm thinking, how?
because it's like Getty. He hits that high. He has that piercing, unique sound that nobody had,
But
except for
yeah,
the guy. He's very similar to the singer in Nazareth, if you're familiar with the band
Right,
called Nazareth.
right, right. No, no,
Sounds a lot like.
100%.
I wish I
You
could
know
think
what's funny, dude? They covered a Nazareth song.
son of a blank. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
You
it's
know,
funny, and I agree, I 100% agree with you. I loved his vocals, and the way he sings that song, he's like knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door, and they knock, and then he goes like that high knock, knock, dude. It's a
that's why.
dude, and
It,
Slash's solo
yeah, yeah. In the bass line where it's just like
on
boom,
the
boom,
bass line and the
boom, boom.
drumming, epic.
Underrated bass player Duff McKagan.
Yeah,
I, and
100%.
I own one of the basses. Like the bass he played was
Wait,
my
wait,
very.
what's the bass he plays? What's the model?
It's a Oh my god. I think I'm senile here. Fender Jazz Special.
Okay.
I bought mine in 1985 in the window of Sam Ash. Mine is black with a rosewood neck, and Duff's is white with a rosewood neck. And I
Mm,
noticed it right away just by the tone. And a couple guys used them too. I think somebody else might have used one
right.
from that era. Mike Inez, who was in Ozzy, I think used one. Now it's like a vintage bass. It's 1985, but it's a precision bass with a precision pickup and a jazz pickup, and it has a selector switch, so you can get both. You can get a precision sound, put it in the middle, or you can get a jazz sound. And Duff McKagan, he kind of immortalized that bass. He made it like really popular, and I was like, shit, I've had that bass since I started. Which was only like 4 years ago, from 1980 to 88 to 1984 when they came out.
It's crazy. It's funny how you say that because on songs like Guns N' Roses, and I'm sure he used the bass on their debut. I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I
On songs like "It's So Easy," it starts out with this crazy bass sound, like dong
yeah,
dong 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 dong. And I always associate Guns N' Roses with this bass sound. So it's funny how you mention that. Like I heard
yeah.
it.
That bass is what he used on that album. I think he only used that bass. I think he was like me, like he was like
Brilliant player.
uses one bass. Like through the years, for the past 20 years, it's funny, so funny. My kid's gonna be 20. I've been playing one bass for 20 years. My 1978 Sunburst P bass. It's all I play, and I got four other ones laying around that I don't really play. That are all 78s and 79s. They call them the disco basses.
Wait, remind me. Wait, do you still have the Rick?
Oh no, I got rid of the Rick.
Okay.
Well, I was in 11th grade, and it's kind of like you're trying to find yourself. When you're learning an instrument.
Right, right.
So I knew I started out in 1984 on a Maya bass, which was a weird, almost like back in the day you'd buy a Sears and Roebuck bass. So it had a P pickup, and I liked the way that felt. When I say a P pickup, it's shaped like this in this. There's a P, and then the jazz is just a long, long thing. So I liked it. So then I went to a repairman in his garage, some old guy, and he had a actual P bass that he made, and I bought it, and I fell in love with that bass. And then from there, I bought the Jazz Special because it had a giant P bass on it.
Hmm.
So P pickup, and then I was always just a P bass guy. So I was a P bass guy, and I used to bring my bass to Giuliano, this guy in White Plains. I think I told the story. And he had a red Rickenbacker, 1977. Now I had two basses. I had a P bass and kind of like this weird other bass. And I said, I'm going to trade in this bass, and I'm going to give you some money for the Rickenbacker. It was in 1978, and I think it was like $500. They were so cheap back then. And he's like, you're not going to like the Rickenbacker because you play a P bass. I know you. I'm like, yeah, but Geddy Lee and Chris Squire, I want to be like those guys. And Cliff Burton had a red one. He goes, all right. The next day I come back with the bass. He's shaking his head. He's like, I told you. Because I hate the way the Rick felt. It's got this big, long neck. It's got this big metal thing on it where you can't really put your fingers on it. Love the sound of a Rick. but not for I don't like playing it. You can't get funky on a Rick. You can't slap on a Rick. You can't really play funk. It's a rock. It's the greatest, one of the greatest rock basses to have is a Rick, a Fender Jazz, or a P bass, or an EBO or EB3 with Jack Bruce played. This is my humble opinion. You could write comments underneath what you think the best rock heavy metal bass is. And all my idols, Phil Lynott, Steve Harris, all played P basses. Except Getty. Getty did play a P bass on the first album,
Right.
and then he went
I think I
back.
remember seeing it, and then I always associated him with the iconic Rick Rickenbacker.
Yeah, and then he played jazz basses
Right.
on Tom Sawyer's a jazz bass on that
Right.
moving pictures. So you know, but anyway, that's just my story.
No, brilliant. A little crash course on the Rick on the Cheech and Manny show. I love it.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
I would suggest if you like the sound of a Rick and you're coming from a P bass, just think about it before you do it. My
yeah.
brother-in-law, Rob, who we had on the show, Rob can play any bass. He's not, Rob can play anything and he's comfortable. Me, I'm very selective.
Right. Right.
I keep my thumb on the pickup,
Right.
and
Right.
that's how I play. And if I don't have that, like a Music Man, like what Flea plays, hate them. Love the way they sound, but there's nowhere to rest your thumb unless you rest it by the bridge. So, so many basses are so particular the way you play it, the way you attack it. I remember another quick story. When I was in college, I had a bass teacher who said, "Man, we're just playing like Bach or we're playing jazz," and he's like, "Man, you got a heavy attack." He's like, "Why do you attack that? You can't attack the bass like that. You can't attack the bass really hard." And I looked at him and I said, he goes, who taught you this? I said, a guy named Geezer Butler, a guy named Steve Harris, a guy named
No,
Eddie.
and it's funny because you're highlighting and for all our are out there for what she's getting at is you're playing it like the heroes of rock and roll. I mean, even the idea of slapping the bass.
Yeah, oh yeah, slapping is an
That's
art.
that is not taught in like formal, bass playing.
Oh no, I spent years trying to perfect, and it's not even a popular thing anymore. Nobody slaps. That was the '80s, '90s. Flea brought it back, like it was an '80s thing. Early
Yeah.
'80s. Marcus
Cheech, you know
Miller.
which song famously on I'm pretty sure there's some slapping on You Can Call Me Al and Paul Simon on that bass solo.
Oh yeah. That's the '80s. That's one of the
Right.
greatest
Right.
flat bass solos ever. So like all right, middle of the '70s, Return to Forever. Stanley Clark was the slap master. He slapped bass. That was his thing. That's what made him different than Jocko. He was the king. A guy named Marcus. Well, let me go back further. Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone
Right.
invented flat bass.
Right.
He Larry Larry Johnson. I'm sorry, Larry Johnson. Lewis Johnson, who is over my bed. That's how much. I don't know if you can see him.
Oh yes.
Okay, so Larry Johnson, putting the two together. Larry Graham. So Lewis Johnson is another guy who was in a band called the Brothers Johnson, and they were a funk band in the '70s, and he slapped. So in the '70s with disco and all these, funk songs, everybody slapped. The '80s, Marcus Miller, this guy made it really, he was the guy you wanted to sound like. He was
Right.
a slapper. Then it started to die off. And then, of course, Call Me Al is the middle of the '80s, so slap bass. They even put slap bass on keyboards. You can get a keyboard sound that's a slap bass.
Mm.
And then by time, Flea, it was dying down, and then Flea kind of brought it back in the
The
90s.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, right?
Yeah. And then, bands like Flea, 247 Spies, all these funk metal bands. I'm trying to think of the other group.
I think I heard slapping on Rage Against the Machine, that bass
Oh,
player.
yeah. Yep, he was really good for slapping. Oh, Fishbone. Fishbone was the guy in that band slapped. So there was a whole funk metal movement in the 90s where slapping became popular. Then it
Right.
died, just like tapping. Tapping on the bass was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Billy Dean and
Right. Right.
hand. And now, if you did that now, people would like. I mean, people do it now. People do everything now. There was a a rabbi video that went viral, slapping the shit out of the bass like Stanley
Right.
Clark. I don't know. Did you
Right.
see
Right.
that?
Right.
I was like, what? So anyway, slapping is it's a very difficult technique, and but I don't slap anymore. I did a gig maybe.
Well, it's kind of hard to incorporate that sound, and the only reason why I mentioned slapping was because the traditional form of playing the bass when like a Geezer Butler plays
Yeah.
or John Entwistle,
Oh
they're
yeah.
like, "What are you doing? That's not." But they have pretty much. It's hard to
Well,
describe like that. That's why I
John
love rock and roll.
John Entwistle slapped, but he
No,
didn't
no,
slap
well, he did, and he is actually an
hard.
innovator.
He plucked really hard, and it sounded
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, but Larry Graham invented it from Sly and the Family Stone.
that's
But
great.
yes,
Great band.
my story when my teacher was like, "Oh no, you got to have a light touch." I'm like, "Not gonna happen."
Right,
This is in the play. You blame Steve Harris and Geezer, and and he
right.
kind of laughed at me. He's like, "Oh, I forgot you're a metal guy." He goes, "Oh man, I can't retrain you to play light." I'm like, yeah, I didn't say it, but I'm like, I don't want to play light. That's
No, no.
boring, like
Well, yeah. Well, it's again the four piece rock and roll band. I mean, the bass. I
yeah,
think we discussed yesterday how we're talking about meter and all that, and rock music. And I'm not music expert. You would be the music expert, but the bass and drum are vital, and like that
oh yeah.
relationship is the backbone of the song. Like if
Well, Larry Graham invented the slap bass. He was a prodigy. He was like 15 years old, and his mother was an organist, and they couldn't get a drummer, so he used it as a percussion because it's very percussive. So he invented this percussive technique where you slap it, and I really in the 80s when I came up, you had to learn how to slap. You had to be. But then my teacher kind of understood, but he's like, just for like when you're playing jazz, try to be a little bit lighter. And when you play Bach, try to be a little bit lighter. And like the more intense I got into the music, I would play like Steve Harris playing, a sonata by an invention by Bach, and I'm playing it like Steve Harris, you know. Or one of my bass teachers would say when I play Motown, I learned everything. I had a book, a James Anderson book. I learned every note. I was able to read it perfectly. He's like, good job, good job. But I'm like, what's wrong? I played every note right. He's like, yeah. The only thing is, it sounds like John Paul Jones. It doesn't sound like James Jamerson. And I'm like, you got to get the feel of Motown, which is understandable. And I worked on getting the Motown feel, which
and no,
most
no, and
kind
speaking
of,
about that, reggae. Like
yeah.
playing reggae, I was watching an Instagram video on. It was kind of funny. It was a little tongue in cheek. They were saying, "Why can a white man get a reggae bass line right?" And a reggae bass player says, "You got to feel the music melody, man. You got to get into it, and you got to feel it. You got to." I was like, and that how true is that though? Like
Oh,
it,
100%.
you got to it's weird. You got to unforget your learning and get and feel the flow.
I never had a problem with reggae. I was pretty like I played with reggae guys, and they kind of dug, well, we play like Stir It Up, the generic stuff, and they'd be like, they'd always sometimes be like, chill, chill, just lay back, lay back.
Right.
They'd be like, yeah, good job. The one thing I get criticized, and you don't get mad at me, Manny, the Latin music. Let me tell you
Oh,
something, man.
yeah,
When
that's another great example.
So when I would go, I studied, you name a style of music, I studied it. African high life, every style of Latin music, Afro-Cuban, bossa nova, tangos. I studied every rhythm in the Latin, salsa, reggae, every style of jazz. But when I had a great book called Afro-Cuban Grooves for Bass. I was really into the Cuban style of bass. So I would be playing the salsa, and I jammed with some really good Latin guys, but my teacher would always be like, "Man, you feel four." Like Phil Rudd from AC/DC. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like, if you don't feel that clave, you're not getting it. You could get every note right on the page. The boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, boom, ba boom, ba boom, boom, boom. But if you don't feel that like cowbell, that's like there's a clave for every rhythm. That kind of thing. And I would be like, how the hell did these? How do these Latin guys feel a clave? And I would go to like some of these Latin places and watch these guys and try to learn it. And then I jam with some Latin guys, and they would teach me just kind of listen to the cowbell, because he's playing the clave.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a rock guy, you're done. When you grew up,
It's different.
if you picked up the bass because of Iron Maiden, Sabbath, and Rush, and you want to become a better musician, and you're studying jazz and Motown and Latin and reggae, and you just rock, what you're doing is you're like what Bonzo did with Dire Maker. You just you rockify it, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I did. It's better than just being a rock bass player. I would get Bach inventions and
Right,
fuck it up and put it in
right.
my thing.
Oh, it actually is what Santana did in the '60s with Latin rhythms.
Well, he put it in a way where it fit, but it didn't
Right,
sound.
right.
You knew it was Latin, but it didn't sound like salsa. It didn't sound like
No.
Tito Monte's band.
Yep.
He's huge, and he's the king of Latin rock, Santana. He's the master of that. Him and a band called War.
Yeah.
Eric Bur-
Yep.
They
Yep.
had,
Eric Burden. Yep. And War.
and then War went out and like they did like Cisco Kid and boom 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 doo. What's the name of that song? The Cheech and Chong
Lowrider. Boom,
Lowrider.
boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
boom, 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 boom.
you know. So yeah. So I think I'm rambling, but be a bass player. Study every style of music and
Sir,
just rockify it. And like
that's
my bass,
it.
but you're screwed. Like when I went to music college, I played the bass because of rock music,
Yeah.
not because of John Coltrane, not because of Bob Marley. If I did, I'd be a different player. And then I
Right.
went to music school. I had a huge adjustment. Like whoa, 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 whoa! It's not Iron Maiden, dude. It's not Iron Maiden. Relax. When you do a walking bass line to a Glenn Miller song, not even like heavy jazz, something simple. Just lay back. Feel that one. Feel that 1, 2, 4. That 2 and 4. Try to get that. Not go boom, 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 boom. No, no, no. It's not Iron Maiden. Geezer, slow down. I don't know.
That's funny.
So I went on a tangent about that. Sorry.
And just to bring back, I guess speaking of bass playing, the music of if you see her, what do you got? The music. If you see her, say hello.
Like you said, nice keys in the beginning. Beautiful guitar. Very pretty intro. Light
Yeah.
drum. Nice, beautiful lyrics. Mellow. Very folk. A different chord progression. A nice pre-chorus. Almost sounds like Jim Croce, or
Yeah.
or it sounds like a Christmas song. There's a
Yeah.
mandolin
Yeah.
solo at the end, and it's raw, and it ends abruptly. This one ends. It doesn't fade out, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's great though.
it brought a Jim Croce vibe. Who
Yeah.
wasn't?
Yeah.
I don't think he was out yet. He
And
might
it's
have just.
funny, and it sounds like a Cat Stevens song too, in its style and singing. It's great. It's one of the best songs on the album. Very, very like
It has
Joni Mitchell sounding.
a Christmas song vibe
Yeah,
to it.
to the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So great song, beautiful. I promise I won't go into any more.
No, that's great, man. Because we're pretty much gonna wrap up pretty soon, so
Yeah.
we'll probably spend a little time on this next one, which
Oh,
I considered I consider the masterpiece of the album.
You want me to go first, or do you want to
Go,
take
go
it?
first, because I'll see what you got, and I'll bounce off.
You'll make my corrections because I probably messed it up. So a shelter from the storm, a search for salvation, taking stock of yourself. Now it's coming from the Bible. There's a couple influences. Obviously, the Bible. William Butler Yeats is in there. I think it's called A Dangerous World Around Him in His Lost Love. It might be a poem by William. Is that a lyric in the song?
Which
The
one?
in Shelter from the Storm. The dangerous world around him in his lost love.
No.
Okay, then that's a poem by William. But if I can speak, Butler Yeats. Uh, Jesus Christ, 40 days in the desert. You know, and he's tempted. Um, by the devil pretty much when he's in the desert. That's in there. What is it? And he came in from the wilderness in response to a woman's offering of shelter from the storm. Come in, she said, I will give you shelter from the storm. I think that's Isaiah 4.6. There will be a booth for shade by day, uh, from the heat, refuge and shelter from the storm, safety from the storm or enemy, God's hiding place. That's, kind of what I got. I got like the Jesus Bible thing, and then I got that, salvation, taking stock of yourself kind of thing.
Right.
Uh,
No, that was really good, man. And I will say, so you probably got all the vantage points, and I just want to like meditate on the religious aspects because one of the reasons why I say this song is one of the greatest, if anything, next to "Tangled Up in Blue." I mean, this song is just a straight up masterpiece in terms of what Dylan is singing about. And the more and I've always liked this song, but I think it was during the past year I kind of realized the masterpiece that it is. And at one level, it's a meditation on love for sure. There is an existential
yeah,
crisis within the song with the shelter crumbling and him putting all his chips in, or the woman saying, come in, I'll give you shelter from the storm. So it's like a metaphor
right,
for the trials and tribulations of love or life itself. But I see, and I'm seeing increasingly the religious aspect of it. And I've argued that Bob Dylan, because in 1975, like how he converts to Christianity and releases his gospel albums, like in the late
yeah,
70s and 80s, this song was sort of the beginning of him like meditating on these ideas. And remember when you said that he's been searching for something.
yeah,
We were talking about like he had a true love, and then with each love affair and love relationship, he's like a restless spirit searching for
yeah,
something.
right, right,
And this song, and it's funny, and when I was teaching this song, like I realized that no one has really talked about this, that the shelter from the storm, first, when you think about when it was written, his life was crumbling. I mean,
yeah,
Dylan was doing well, but he wasn't doing as well as in the 1960s, right?
no,
He was
no,
being forgotten. He released albums that were not that great.
yeah,
Obviously, he probably had money, but there was a lot of expectation on what Dylan was going to do and if he was ever going to recapture the spirit of the 60s.
yeah,
His relationship or marriage crumbled completely, and just imagine trying to deal with that, but then trying to record an album at the same time. Like, and his relationships we've explored, then he's not doing that well. He's like
no,
a restless spirit. And then him trying to record this album, coming from the albums that we talked about before, after Nashville Skyline, where they didn't that. I mean, I don't think commercially they didn't do that well.
no,
Definitely not as big as he was in the 1960s. And
no,
so he's in the storm. He's sort of a little lost. And so when he sings, for example, "'Twas in Another Lifetime," one of Toil and Blood, When blackness was a virtue, the road was full of mud. I came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. This is his sort of his soul saying, I feel like a creature void of form. And he's been in the wilderness. And he even says that blackness was a virtue, because let's be honest, for many rock stars, I mean, blackness, there's a lot of blackness. Virtue is few.
Yeah.
Um, and he says the road was full of mud. And I love, once again, he uses twas in another lifetime, being poetic.
Yeah.
One
Love
of
that.
toil and blood, his lifetime. I mean, one of the things that came up from the 1960s, even though he was big, poor Dylan, I think I mentioned this, he never had a friend. And
Well,
he had a
he did in the movie. That guy.
no. He did, but that friend was like a groupie.
Oh, that wasn't a like a
That
best friend.
wasn't his true friend. And my brother, when we saw the movie, actually, one of the things he noticed was his relationship with Johnny Cash. And he said, and my brother noticed this. He said that he noticed how Johnny Cash got him. Like very few understood him.
Yeah.
And you could argue maybe his loves too. And so, and just to keep saying, and if I pass this way again, you can rest assured, I'll always do my best for her. On that, I give my word. In a world of steel-eyed death, and again, this world that he describes is so horrible. It's so sad. And men who are fighting to be warm, he's searching for shelter. Come in, she said. I'll give you shelter from the storm.
Right.
And that's the theme. Oh, certain woman keeps offering shelter, and one of the theories I have is that he's playing around with like Catholic ideas,
Yeah.
because in the Catholic religion, the Virgin Mary gives shelter to lost souls. So
Right.
she brings you to the shelter, which is the church, which is the um, her son's, salvation.
Temple.
And so that's the more I see it, it's hard to unsee. One of the best lines. Suddenly, I turned around and she was standing there, with silver bracelets on her wrists and flowers in her hair. She walked up to me so gracefully and took my crown of thorns. Come in, she said. I'll give you shelter from the storm. And I've always had this idea that when they brought Jesus down from the cross, I think, I'll be honest with you, maybe Mother Mary took the crowns off her son's head, wiped the body,
Is
and
that
all.
in? Is there any recollection of did any like who did somebody had to do that? So like who was it? It had to be his mom.
I have my theory. I place big emphasis on the mom,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because there's these visions, and again, you don't have to believe in this. I believe in the mystical side of the Catholic faith, but
Yeah.
there are visions that Mary, when they was there when they took him down from the cross, and I definitely believe she took that crown off his head, wiped the
Yeah.
blood off the, and
Mm-hmm.
have you seen the Passion of the Christ? It ends
Oh,
on that still
did
where,
now did she do it in the Passion of the Christ?
yeah.
She took the crowns off his head.
Oh, no. Actually, that's a good question. I got to remember. I'm trying to remember if they did, but I'm telling you, I want another great scene is when, I think we talked about it on the Jesus Christ Superstar episode, when Jesus had one of his falls. Uh,
Oh,
the Bible records
hey,
3 falls, and
he was being.
remember, she comes
Oh,
up to him, and Jesus, and once again, like, see, Jesus gives you that shelter. This Bob Dylan,
yeah,
this character, has
yeah,
been beat up by life. He's been hated, and
yeah,
Jesus, and one of the things with like our faith is that Mary brings lost souls to Jesus.
yeah. Right.
So and for example, he has another line here saying, I've heard newborn babies wailing like a mourning dove, and such a sad line. An old man with broken teeth stranded without love. Do I understand your question, man? Is it hopeless and forlorn? And then once again, the chorus, or the cook, come in. She said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. And to drive home the point, in a little hilltop village, they gambled for my clothes. I bargained for salvation, and she gave me a lethal dose. And that's a direct reference to Jesus.
Yeah,
I offered up my innocence, and I got repaid with scorn. Because remember, Jesus from the cross, when he was like dying and suffering, said, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they do.
yeah,
Come in, she said, I'll give you Shelter from the Storm. So it's this great song that it's like a meditation on a lost soul in that needs help. And obviously it can't be the marriage that will give him shelter, right? Where is he going to get that shelter, that peace?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that, dude. That's amazing how you just broke that down. Holy crap, unbelievable. It's like awesome. It's totally. I see the religious aspect in the song, and you just spelled it out. You know, so definitely, he's referring to Jesus,
That's
or
my
he,
theory. And again, and that's my theory. And I'm
or he's
surprised no one has written a book about this.
comparing himself to Jesus in a way, his career. I mean, you never compare yourself to Jesus,
Of
but
course.
in a career way. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, great job. That's amazing, man. Yeah, you know. So and perfect time for Easter, right? Talking about and that
I argue this is a great Easter song.
and that scene that you talk about when Mary sees him on the cross and then goes back to him falling as a child.
Yeah.
It, you know, people could say what they want about Mel Gibson, but whoever like came up with that's and I'm sure
It's one of the most brilliant flashbacks.
I think it's
Brilliant.
I think it's the most brilliant flashback of any movie. Emotionally, and if you
Yeah.
have when you have a child, it's even harder to watch.
Oh, it's devastating.
Like that's one movie I can't watch again. We talked about like because it's just too hard. And like I remember I seen a priest say they asked the priest like, "What did you think of the movie?" And he said, "Oh, it made me cry because it was beautifully done, but the pain in that movie when you see at the end with the crucifixion." And then somebody said, "Do you think the crucifixion was that bad?" And the priest goes, "We'll never know, but I'm sure it was worse than that."
Well, maybe one day I'll write a book on it. It was that bad and worse. That
Yeah.
movie is tame to what actually happened, and you can actually there's a nun, Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, like a German nun that got these visions, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what the movie was based on. But according to some accounts from like also saints that got like visions as well, like the
Mm-hmm.
Passion of the Christ, even as bad as it was worse than that.
Yeah. 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 God.
So it's and going back to the song, it's just like I feel it's hard to unsee when like you see these symbols. And just one last verse here, the last one. Well, I'm living in a foreign country, but I'm bound to cross the line. Beauty walks, and look, Dylan being poetic here. Beauty walks a razor's edge. Someday I'll make it mine. See, and I always thought like Jesus carrying the cross in the crucifixion, where there's something beautiful about that, but it's a razor's edge. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
someday I'll make it mine. And then the last line, the last few verses, if I could only turn back the clock to when God and her were born, a reference to Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. Going back to innocence, the garden when Eve was with God and,
Yeah.
life was simpler.
Yeah.
Again, I always say this is Dylan's soul. Like I know people out there, I don't know that if y'all believe in souls, but the soul cries out, and poets capture this.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan being a poet, he's capturing this, and we said it. He's searching for something,
Yeah.
and this song is emblematic of him. He needs shelter. He doesn't know where to get it from,
Yeah.
and so he'll find it in God. And it's not coincidental that he'll convert to Christianity a few years later.
Yeah. And his career was in the tanks. It wasn't doing
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Like yeah, knocking.
Imagine if this album didn't do well.
I know. I mean, knocking on heaven's door brought him up. It
Yeah,
got him back because like the like Billy the Kid album and Bob Dylan. I think the album was just called Bob Dylan. The ones I mentioned yesterday, they did horrible. You know, I don't think he ever didn't have people come and see him in concert. I don't think he lost any fans because they wanted to hear
no,
the
no,
hit.
no. I think he was in the Rolling Thunder review tour, like
Yeah,
the
but I think he became almost like a '50s or '60s band, like bands that
yeah,
were rapped, like Dion and the Belmonts, even Dion. My dad loves Dion, and he bought everything Dion ever did. Dion went religion too. That was the thing a lot of guys did. They were born again, repented, and did religious
right.
help. But Dion never really had a hit in the 70s. You know what I mean? Like, the only guy that really broke free and had a hit again was Frank Sinatra when he did New York, New York.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't anybody who's stuck in an era like Frank Sinatra stuck in the greatest era of all time. The 40s and the 50s and the
right,
Dean Martin
right.
era. They don't have to ever write any songs. You know what I mean? Like
No,
during that time. But Frank Sinatra comes out with New York, New York. It becomes like a number one hit. I
right,
can't think
right.
of anybody reinvented themselves that was stuck in the 60s and became really popular in the 70s. Maybe Paul McCartney. Okay, I take it back. The Beatles, but they don't count because they're geniuses. McCartney had
Yeah,
Wings.
they're innovators.
Paul McCartney did Wings, which I think is brilliant. George Harrison's solo album, John Lennon, forget about it. So you can't count the Beatles, but like I can't think of anybody who's an icon in the 60s that went on into the 70s and had success. I really can't, because you're trapped in that era. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but I don't know.
Well, it's difficult, and I think that's why with this song, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, Dylan was in a circus storm. I mean,
Yeah,
he went on tour in this. He calls it the Never Ending Tour with the Rolling Thunder Review,
yeah, yeah,
and I think he toured with the band as well.
yeah.
If I don't, he has a live album with the band, but he was a little irrelevant because other artists eclipsed him. And like, if he didn't release this album, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean,
He would just be a torn
like
guy on tour.
a touring band, a legacy act, which
That's
unfortunately, sadly, he became in the '80s.
Yeah, until the Traveling Wilburys, which was a
Right,
genius thing, but that was a one-off.
right.
He hasn't really done anything like Blonde on Blonde in the past
No, no, and it's
uh
Cheech, it's
years.
crazy. This, no, and it's crazy. This and Desire, like you said, one of
Yeah,
his last classics.
that's it.
Tangled, and I'll be honest with you. I know Joe might disagree with this. I'm kind of curious what Joe thinks. I love Desire, love that album, but
Yeah,
it it's not great. Like it's amazing, but
yeah.
it's not great compared to Blood on the Tracks or
No,
Blonde on
Blood on
Blonde.
the last genius album by Dylan.
Yeah,
Fire's a great album.
no, for
Um,
sure.
but that's it. That's it. And other, Dylan fans forgive me for saying this. This is all opinion, but
Yeah.
you could say the same thing about the Grateful Dead too. Like in the '80s, they weren't really making. I don't think great albums. Dead Set. I don't think that's a great album. Or
I know this is controversial, and don't come at me, deadheads. I
yeah.
feel like the Grateful Dead had a few at the end of the '60s, '70s, few great albums, but afterwards they were
Well,
just
well, the '70s, the Dead had so many great albums. Like they're like not like Dylan. They had more better songs and albums than say Dylan did. But in the early '80s, it wasn't until A Touch of Grey that they made a comeback. Like they
yeah.
got, everybody knew the Dead. Um, so certain bands from the '60s, and you can count the Grateful Dead. They did good. Actually, the Grateful Dead. Well, they're not really a '60s band. If you think about it.
Well, no, but when I say the Grateful Dead, I'll be honest with you, like American Beauty or they released good albums in the '70s, but they were too inconsistent. But what saved
Yeah.
them was their touring and
Oh yeah.
fans.
Like Dylan.
They came, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I
And you're
mean,
right. It wasn't, and they struggled. I mean, it wasn't until the '80s. Even in the '80s, they struggled big time. And until they released "A Touch of Grey," which is very poppy. It doesn't sound like a Dead song. Like
yeah,
it's so
no,
good, but it
but
it sounds like a Dire Straits song.
it totally does. And like, yeah, the Dead is a '60s band who went on to be successful into the '70s. The Who was also a '60s band that went on to be
Yeah,
very successful. I would say the Who.
in the '70s, they got well. You know what's funny with the Who? They kind of it's so sad with the Who because with the death of Keith Moon, that's when things and they had a good career in the '70s. I mean,
They had, oh yeah,
ma-
they had a good career.
massive.
and a great career in the '60s. So
Yeah,
the Who is like the Beatles. You know, the Beatles broke up obviously, but the individual
right.
members. That's you can't say that about the Kinks. You know, the Kinks had like Lola. Maybe is that in the '70s?
That's the 70s.
Right.
The
So
Kinks.
maybe you should say it about the Kinks. Lola was a huge, you know. So
You know what? I'm sorry. I love the Kinks, so I'm gonna slightly disagree with you on that one
it's a
because
one
their
off.
'70s stuff is actually really good. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they were popular.
they weren't
That's a
popular.
good. No, right? No, I think they became more English.
Yeah, but Lola is a huge hit. So
I was gonna say, yeah, yeah,
they kind of they squeak in there as a band from the '60s that was successful in the '70s. Um, I mean, trying to think of other bands like who had massive. I mean, you can't count Deep Purple or Led Zeppelin or Sabbath because that's the end of the '60s. You
right.
know, they count
Yeah,
in my
no, no, and like the point with all this is that Bob Dylan again, like he was in the storm. I mean, if he wasn't, I feel like he's been lost lyrically as well, trying to search for inspiration to write lyrics,
yeah.
and that's why his previous albums weren't that great. And it's funny when he became a greatest hits act for a little bit. I mean, he was just
Hmm.
playing the greatest hits. Few songs,
Yeah,
and obviously we talked about um the soundtrack for Billy the Kid, or was it
Billy the
Knocking on
Kid
Heaven's
and
Door? Which, and
yeah,
by the way, Knocking on Heaven's Door, even though it was written for the movie, dude, that's a
yeah,
cry for to heaven. Like, and I think Shelter from the Storm, he continues that. And if you take it from like a Catholic point of view, it makes even more sense. And and then giving it from a because the song is peppered with so much religious imagery, and like the biblical
yeah,
references are so subtle, but once you see them they become big. Like when he says, for example, like Jesus being stripped of his clothes and his possessions in that line, in a little hilltop village they gambled for my clothes. That's like the like Jesus is speaking through
yeah,
Bob Dylan a little bit here. And he
yeah,
he
yeah,
wants forgiveness. He compares himself to his, he really describes how awful life is. And then the she gives him the shelter from the storm. And I don't know if you knew this, the church, like in the Catholic religion, is always referred to as she, like the bride of Christ. So the church
yeah.
offers salvation from a very dark and stormy world. And and then you can obviously take it from the
Yeah.
existential, spiritual, um, uh, poetic rumination on love lost, because it's devastating. I mean, and again, one would think, oh, he'll find shelter in love
Yeah.
and marriage. He didn't. I mean, he kept going from one relationship to another one. Thought we mentioned on Nashville
He didn't
Skyline
have
how
much luck.
he found happiness.
Yeah. But that goes that could we don't know about Dylan. It could just be him, be his personality. Never there are people that are never satisfied with anything. Am I freezing up?
Well, and I give the theory is a little bit, because I think, but we're about to wrap up. But it's funny. I give the theory that Bob Dylan was a soul searcher. He was searching for something,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's funny. And back to Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine famously said that the heart is restless until they rest in God.
yeah, yeah,
So when he said he did that song, "I Dream of Saint Augustine," I mean, a lot of these albums he has a spiritual journey, and this is the peak, "Shelter from the
yeah,
Storm," and it's so beautiful. It's so simple, like it's so simple. It's complex. Like that's one of Bob Dylan's geniuses. The
yeah,
chords, I think it's open D or E,
yeah. I
which
didn't even
I
get
bet I was trying to learn the
like
song
that.
on guitar.
Didn't even get to the music, right? We because
I guess let's lead into the music, because I mentioned it.
yeah,
Like I think we talked about the lyrics. Now music. Tell me.
uh basically I have great guitar strumming. I don't have what key it's in. Nice chords. There's no drums in the song.
No,
Um,
just bass line.
yeah, great lyrics. There's guitar in it, and there's like great guitar arpeggios in it. So there's bass, guitar, and the guitar arpeggios are really really cool. That's being played.
Yeah.
Really, it's not a complex song or anything, but
No, it's complex,
lyrically,
simplistic beauty.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
like,
what.
it's just one of those that dude. I'll be honest, if people out there listen to this song, it's really amazing, and I've used it in certain. I'm not gonna. I used it in class to 11, 12 year olds, and many of them did like it. A lot of them weren't used to that kind of style of music,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
'cause my point is that the song and Bob Dylan has a lot of Christianity in his music,
Oh yeah.
and this is one of his peaks for sure. And yeah, and I think it's open E tuning because I was trying to learn the song guitar, and
Oh yeah.
because it's open E, you can like strum and it sounds like the E chord, and you just
Yeah.
place your fingers on certain and just play so beautifully. Like it's a really
You
easy
can
song to learn.
one finger. You can go to the seventh fret and put your finger on it.
Yeah. No, it's really cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know musicians will probably, because you're a musician, you'll be like, oh, it's kind of like too simple. But again, there's something so beauty and simple.
People got to look at Bob Dylan as a whole package. The lyrics, number one, the singing style, the harmonica playing, the way he played guitar, his unique style. The guy's got what's going on. He offers a lot, you know.
Yeah,
You can't just dismiss him. But I think this was the end. Like it's almost like saying this is the last hurrah for Bob Dylan.
yeah.
This is it. Cause like I don't know what he did in the '80s. You know, he never really made
I
it.
mean, he released good stuff, but it's not as great as it doesn't reach the peaks of "Shelter from the Storm." I
Did
mean, I'm
he make?
sorry. Well, that song, which is my "Blood on the Tracks."
Did he make it on MTV with anything besides the traveling Wilburys? Like, did he have any
No,
videos?
he had a few. He had a few things. No, no, I think so. I think he did.
I don't remember seeing it.
But
You know?
the '80s, he had like a crisis. Like he really wasn't doing that well.
Oh, because he had so much to go up against. You had pop music, you had
I,
metal,
I mean,
you
the
had,
'80s is, dude. The '80s
you had
is like a whole
new
beast.
wave. There's no
Yeah,
way.
and imagine Bob Dylan as a new wave act. Like, I think
I'm
he tried it and it didn't work.
Did he? Did he try a new wave?
It's funny. He did this weird thing. He had like a midlife crisis thing where he was wearing like leather jackets and like I think he was wearing earrings and wearing
Yeah,
sleeveless like it's not a good look. Like,
uh,
ugh.
a lot of.
And then in the '90s, he had sort of like a resurf, a renaissance.
Oh yeah, because the scene came back. The '60s came back in the '90s. If you think
Yeah,
about it, because a lot of think of all these cover songs like Rod Stewart did a lot of like Motown songs. Motown came back in the '90s. There was a lot of covers of Motown. So the '60s came back in the early '90s for a while. You know, not
yeah.
not 60s, but the influence. So, but Bob Dylan is a household name, so he'll never go away.
He'll be, yeah. He's like the Beatles. He's household,
he had enough albums to
but
just and after Blood on the Tracks, that was it. So
yeah.
but
And yeah, great song. I consider it in my list one of the greatest. And I shared you a YouTube video of his live version in which he kind of changes the sound of it and rocks it out. And dude,
yeah,
it's one of the these two versions. I think I remember that video I showed you
I think I remember it. Yeah,
of him
it was,
playing live and he's playing slide guitar.
it was outside show.
He was outside, yeah, and man, the song. I think that version is amazing. He looks so cool. He looks great.
Yeah, yeah,
And he rockifies his own song and makes it even better.
yeah.
And both versions are great.
Where
But yeah, great
which
song.
but not to someone like Neil Young got very successful. Now Neil Young came out in the '60s, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then was huge in the '70s, and then continued to have massive success in the '80s, and even rocking in the free world. like genius. That.
Yeah, yeah. Neil Young. Well, Neil Young had a rocky first '80s. So okay, so Neil Young, '70s, massive. I mean, dude, this dude was. That's why with Bob Dylan, other people did Bob Dylan better than Bob Dylan. Like Neil Young, I mean, he took what Bob Dylan started and just perfected it. You know, Canadian. When he entered the '80s, he had a rough time though. He was rough transition, but by the time he hit the '80s, was rocking in the free world, and in his '90s work, he was back.
Oh yeah.
And you know, he's been, you know, he was already grunge before grunge was a thing.
Oh yeah.
Like Bob Dylan could be grunge, but Bob Dylan
So
can't do grunge. It's
Neil,
just
Neil Young innovated grunge, and Bob Dylan innovated pretty much everything else except for heavy metal.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Or punk.
right.
Well, well, I would say there's a little bit of punk in his
Oh,
attitude.
oh, and dude, Harvest Moon in the '90s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Dylan,
Neil.
Neil Young, Harvest sequel, and was massive.
Yeah, no, Neil Young had a way more successful career than Bob Dylan did in the '80s and the
Oh,
'90s.
and he had a band, Crazy Horse, that Dylan lacked.
Oh yeah. Well, that was Dylan's problem. He never was happy with, well, the band. The band was his like go-to, but he never, and the band was not going to be a backup band. They're too freaking good.
Yeah,
They're the greatest bands of all time. So Dylan never had a Crazy Horse, and he didn't need it. He didn't need it because he's Bob Dylan. You know, that's what made him
exactly.
unique. You know, you
No,
know.
no, he didn't. No, he didn't, and he could do stuff on his own.
Yeah.
But
And
I mean,
how
yeah.
many,
So great
how
song
many,
though.
how many people could? How many people could do that on their own? Not too many.
Yeah, I think very
They
few,
I
very
oh,
few.
even the Beatles, they needed each other. They needed Lennon and McCartney. You know,
Yeah, yeah, because they were a little spotty with their '70s output. Like they're by themselves. Like definitely
well,
not as great as when they were together.
I think Wings was the most successful. I think John
No, they
Lennon.
were, but they were no. Wings was successful, but the problem
Yeah,
with Wings is that their output was so inconsistent. That's the
yeah.
problem. Like not every album was perfect, and a lot of their albums they had way too much filler that wasn't that great or
Yeah.
memorable.
Well, Lennon was
And
more
that's coming
memorable.
from a McCartney fan.
Yeah, Lennon had more. I think Lennon had better songs.
Well, Lennon did have better songs, but with Lennon too, he had that massive inconsistency problem because Lennon by himself. Don't get me wrong, when he did write songs,
yeah.
and some of like his greatest songs, like they were really good.
Imagine, yeah.
But some of his albums weren't that great though. Too much filler. Like they needed each other, that
That's
chemistry. And
right.
once that falling apart, like they just
Silkman may kill me on this. I'm gonna say the same thing about Robert Plant stuff in the '80s. You know, I mean, sorry. Like, I love Plant solo stuff, but I don't. I like Plant solo stuff, but I don't love it. You know, Jimmy Page is different for me. I love Outrider and I love The Firm, but then I'm not a fan of Coverdale Page at all. I'm not a fan of
right,
Page and Plant got together. You need John Paul
right.
Jones. You need Jason Bonham. It lacked, in my
It's
opinion.
like the team.
Like,
It's a team.
you could say it's good, but if you listen to it now, is it really good? Is it really good?
Yeah.
Is it Kashmir? Something off of Plant?
Eh, for a fan, yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
But
going back to the album,
you could take Rush.
I guess we'll
You could take Rush from the '70s and Rush to the '80s and the '90s, and everything is good. There's no, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, there's no bad album. Like, in my opinion, about Rush. I think that's the only band I could say that about that traveled through time that put out consistent great
mm,
albums. Yeah. You want to do Buckets of
yeah,
Rain?
100%. Yeah, I guess let's conclude the album with probably the coming from the intensity to now nice acoustic number, Buckets of Rain.
Yeah. Once again, heartbreak and healing past love and its lost, memories and very sad about Sarah Lowens. There's longing, regret, crying buckets of rain is a metaphor. I think it's a breakup song. Basically, it's about Sarah, in my opinion.
Mhm.
It's his ending that relationship, and I wonder what happened
Yeah.
when he left her for the girl from Columbia Records, the Bernstein girl. That probably faded. I wonder how long that lasted. Unless he had kids with her, who knows? You know. Uh,
Right.
any comments on buckets of rain? I think it's just crying. It's a metaphor for crying. I think.
I yeah, just it continues that love lost theme and idea, and concludes the album. And I will say, just one thing is like the way he sings the song is he's crooning like he did on Nashville Skyline, kind of. Where, and I'm gonna try to imitate it, because he'll go from somewhere's gonna be no hero, like like that famous like Dylan, like here, here, like, um, but this one he says, buckets of rain. Like he's like just crooning and like really singing, and it's really it sounds sweet, but lyrically it's a little sad. And obviously the metaphor of buckets of rain. I mean, I got all them buckets out of my tears. I mean, he
Yeah,
tells you,
it's
and then
really
at the last
depressing.
verse he says, yeah, in the last verse he says, life is sad, life is a buzz. Y'all can do what you do. Like he's crooning what you must do and do it well. I'll do it for you, honey, baby. Can't you tell? Like it
Yeah.
just concludes the album on the best way in terms of the themes that we've been talking about. And Dylan has buckets of rain. If it's about him, and obviously it's about his uh he'll disagree with us, but it's his dissolution of his marriage. And
Oh,
think about Cheech. I bet you and Cheech. I mean, I'm sure this song means a lot for you in terms of
yeah,
because
yeah.
you
With the first marriage, like I don't
right,
even
right.
consider the second marriage. I don't even. That's not even marriage. That's just not nothing. Actually, it means absolutely
Who was the
nothing.
Lamia? Was the Lamia the second one?
Yeah, the first one was the one true love that I talk about. That
That was when you were in heaven, and when you were in purgatory, that was your Lamia,
yeah,
and in hell was your recent
when
one.
you have a child with somebody, you always love that person forever because
Right, right,
they gave you, the greatest gift in the world, which is my kid, and I always will respect and thank God, for my first wife. Um, and when it
right,
ended,
right.
I was, I was very the buckets of rain was me. You know what I mean? The second one,
Yeah, buckets of
uh,
tears.
I would say would be more like Hell Awaits by Slayer or something. Like I'm just glad it's gone. I'm glad, like I'm glad.
Well, we can no we can no we can use the Dante metaphor. You were in either paradise or hell. No, purgatory or hell.
Probably in the end it was hell. I mean, it was. I don't want to. There was like good things about it, but I was stupid, and I was under the influence of a lot of bad things.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I remember you telling me about this, but I didn't know how bad it was
Yeah, yeah. I
at the
was under
temple.
I was under the influence of some bad things, which I don't want to get into. Kids. This is an egg, crack fried. This is your egg. This is your brain on drugs. You know what I mean? Like, I was really as an old commercial, but you know, drinking and doing stupid stuff, not thinking logically. Um, so like big mistake. That second one, big mistake. And I could have got out of it so many times, but just stupid. If you live and you learn. You know. And I don't want to be evil. And I wish that person the best in her life. The second one. Hope she has a great life. Take the Christ consciousness. But I just wish I made better choices. But I didn't. So, no buckets of rain on that. You know.
You're probably singing the other one, Idiot Wind.
About me.
Someone's out to get for me.
Yeah, about me. I'm the idiot wind on that. Like I said, I don't even consider it a second marriage because it really wasn't. It was just a prolonged relationship. That's why you only get one, and hold on to it and make it work. You know, that's
Right.
that's my theory about
And,
women.
and that's a lesson. I know I agree with you, man. Like philosophically, I believe in true love. And um I'm gonna pull a Bob Dylan, but in terms of like, when you find it, like I definitely, one would think they find it, but no. And my thing is, you know, I've never experienced marriage, but that's reserved for the true love. So you once you find it, I love what you said. It's like you hold on to it and like cherish it. And
Yeah,
sadly, you have to come and obviously out there are people who don't believe in true love. I mean, it's a shame because once you find it, and even if it's lost, it stays with you forever, and you'll try to seek it again, but you won't
uh,
be able to,
you
which
won't.
is
You
the
won't.
sad part.
I believe it won't happen. Even if you get married again, unless you're widowed, maybe
Which
it
is
could,
also sad too. That's the other
you know,
devastating part of life.
maybe work, but I doubt it could. So many people have successful second marriages, so I'm not knocking that. But deep down in their mind, they're saying,
Well, if you're a widow, I feel like you're gonna be the person visions of Johanna, haunted.
yeah,
You'll be haunted.
yeah, yeah. But like your second marriage is more of like the second half of your life to just spend with somebody. You love them, but you're not going to love them like your first true love, which is your first wife or your first husband, in my opinion,
Right, right,
because that's the
right.
first time you
No,
experience
and
that.
that's why it's special. The true love, it's
Yeah,
special. Like it's. I know a lot of people are cynical nowadays, and with certain people that want to that don't believe in monogamy or. And I'm not commenting on anything, and I think we had a good texting chat about it, but I like what you say because, and you're the sage. You lived it. You experienced it, and I feel as though Blood on the Tracks is about what you're talking about.
it is. It's about lost love, and always hold on to the love and always respect your first wife because she gave you life. She gave you children, you know, and that's a gift. Not everybody gets children. Not everybody is allowed. I think
That's beautiful.
God gave me a gift, a kid, which I
Yeah.
remember my dad saying to me when I was young, "You don't know what it's like, until you have a kid. It's the greatest thing in the world." And I'm just like, "Yeah, whatever, whatever. Yeah, kid." And then as I got older, you know, I didn't, the girls always push you into marriage. It's just how it is. Guys don't want to get married. That's
Yeah,
just
that
when
that
you're young.
that's the well, certain and speaking on certain guys,
Yeah,
that's why they don't want single marriage. It
yeah.
makes sense because
It's
you're
the
right.
natural feeling of a man. You're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll get married, but when it happens. But then every girlfriend got married. Then it was time. I bought the ring. I did everything you're supposed to do. You know, bought the ring. I had $5,000 in my pocket. I went to 48th Street in Manhattan. If I made a quick left, it went to the 48th Street guitar where it had my dream bass, which is actually on my wall. Could you see that? Candy Apple Red,
Yeah.
1962. Um, and I remember my brother-in-law Rob was with me. He's like, "You sure? You sure you want to go that way?" And we actually looked, and they had that bass in the. It was a lot more than five
Oh,
thousand.
that's crazy. How? Oh, wait a minute, Rob. Yeah, that's crazy. How you? That's fun. I think he mentioned that story.
Yeah, yeah. Rob was with me, and I bought the ring, and I did the whole thing on Valentine's Day, and the best night of my life, getting engaged to my first wife, and we had a nice run, 22, 23 years together, which is pretty successful. I think I got a great kid out of the deal, so I'll always love my first wife forever. You know, but I thought I could extend that with the second wife. I don't want to say wife because it's second relationship because she had kids and
Right.
I had a kid and okay, yeah, but that's what people are doing. Let's do this. It's like replacing a band member. When you replace a band member, it's not the same band. Sorry, you know, and it doesn't work.
No, it's hard to capture that magic.
Yeah, I may work for Sabbath with
And
Dio.
few bands done it. No, and few bands have done it, like AC/DC. Like they were able to do it,
Yeah,
but it's
Sabbath.
rare. I mean,
Sabbath did like
Sabbath. I mean, technically 3 times, maybe.
2 albums maybe with Dio, 3 albums with Dio, but they couldn't capture that magic. And same thing with the second marriage. And there's idiots out there that do it a third time or a fourth time. Sorry, I don't mean to call you, but maybe you don't want to be alone. That's what it is. Loneliness sucks.
Well. That's the and it's funny because Blood in the Tracks is not about loneliness. So, and I'll be honest with you, Bob Dylan has, as far as I know, in his music, he's never dwelt upon that loneliness idea because you're 100% right. Because most people are scared of loneliness. They don't want to be alone, and it'll push them to say, "Oh, I got to marry somebody. I can't be alone."
Yeah, yeah. That's usually a female thing. Usually girls want not being
Right.
like a chauvinistic guy, but most guys don't care. Girls want to get married. They
Well,
want they
most guys will just drink their problems away. And if I can quote Pink Floyd, "Quiet desperation is the English way." Like they're
yeah,
just quietly desperate. Like they,
yeah, Thoreau in a way. You know what I mean? Like quiet desperation, Henry David Thoreau. But like I just kind of feel that it's like if you had it once, you're I don't think you're gonna get it again. I'm sorry. I'm going by my experience, and I only know mine. But
right,
I see so many people
right.
that are time, and I don't know if they're
Well,
truly happy. Who
I
knows?
can tell you from like a psycho. Well, you have the life experience. That your approach is the phenomenological perspective,
Yeah,
where you're taking your experience and sort of forming a life ethos and like philosophy. But from like a psychological perspective, like most of remarriages, it's kind of rare. I mean, and again, once again, like it's that fear of you don't want to be alone, and mostly you're right. Mostly women, and then guys struggle. Now guys struggle even. They struggle with that. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a fascinating thing.
I had gotten divorced. I was in my 40s, and I was like, all right, I don't want to. I was with somebody for 23 years. Let me see how this goes. But you know, I was warned by people, don't do it, man. Don't get married again. Don't get married again. You're gonna make a mistake. And then I was just in such a haze that I didn't listen. And you know, and like I said, no disrespect to my second relationship because I don't want to put say anything bad about people, but yeah, for me it didn't work. I hope it could work for people, but I don't know.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, no, for sure.
in this world. It's so screwed up, dude. With Facebook and uh, Instagram, you can meet somebody in a second, man, and it's over. You know, you know. Uh, like I was just talking to somebody at the temple, and this young guy, and pretty girl comes over, is talking to him, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, your girlfriend? No, not yet. She has a boyfriend. Oh, but she texts me all the time, and I'm like, oh my god, like where's this going? Where's the future going if
That
young
is
girl
strange.
young girls have a boyfriend but they're texting other guys? This is a bad technology is
Yeah,
bad tips. I'm not saying all girls do that, but I witnessed it. I witnessed the young generation in the act. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. Relationships, fine. And for me, I know for you, man, you're gonna find that you're gonna find the right true love because you're a good dude. It's gonna come to you like Rumi, the grateful love. What you seek,
Yeah,
you shall
right.
find. What you seek is
I know,
seeking.
dude. I love that. Yeah, I love philosophy. Love
Yeah.
Rumi. Yeah,
So Rumi, yeah,
I trust in the universe. Like
yeah,
I trust in the universe, and obviously in my universe, God is like He
yeah.
lays out the plan, and yeah, 100%. Thank you,
Like
man.
I was blessed to have my first wife come into my life, and I've always been blessed with music. Somehow, music is always there. Music always in my life,
Mm.
just up at my door, just always there. And I thank God for that blessing, you know. But not like that's why I feel for me I'm kind of done. I'm not looking for no like third, fourth marriage. I try, like there was a third who I will not bring up on this episode, and like it, I'm not even going there, At least in my mind, I thought it could have been something, but it just yeah, it just didn't. After that, I'm just like so three times. There was three times here, three. So not really, the universe isn't really looking out for me for that. But who knows? Still young, I think. But the guys at the temple think I'm not young. There was a customer
Well, it
complaint.
depends on who you talk to, because if you talk to certain people, I mean, they're really young people, even compared to me. Like I
I mean,
think a certain somebody is, I think maybe he's 27. I think I don't even know how old he is.
the
No,
one.
but some there are 18-year-olds there. They're young people.
Oh yeah. So and my kid made me laugh because there was a complaint. Somebody called in and they were saying that the newer people are not doing a good job. Some guy was just rambling to somebody, one of the managers in my department. And the newer people are not doing a good job. They're, you got to train them better. And then they said there are some good workers, like the old guy with glasses, you know. And I said to the manager, "Wait, did you just say the old guy with glasses? Are you are you referring to me?" And then I brought this up to my kid. And my kid's like, "What do you think? You work with kids, you tell me, that are 18, 19, 20, and you're 55.
No, seriously,
So like you don't look like you're
dude.
18, dad.
Seriously, man.
Or you may look in the mirror and
No, no.
see an
Well, even dude, even to dude, and even to me, like I am old mentally compared to, like, some of your coworkers and my
yeah,
coworkers, and even like the front end. Like, dude,
I
and I'm
yeah,
I'm in the middle, right? So I
yeah.
I am like, dang, I
Like Daquan, I love because he's an old soul. I could talk to him. He's 24, and like
right,
we have, and we
right.
we dates and we joke and we crack on each other. He's a really intelligent, smart guy. But then there's some people that I'm just I'm lost. I'm lost. I'm like I have no I'll try to get involved in a conversation and I'm just like, ooh, I don't know what they're talking about. Daquan is always trying to teach me slang, modern day slang. I'm like, okay, I'll just use it with my kid. I'm not gonna use I'm gonna sound like an idiot using modern day slang or whatever. But yeah, I do feel old at the temple because I am, you know. But there's people older than me there, so it's not, you know, I'm not. I'm sort of I'm
Yeah,
the middle aged
right,
worker.
right, right,
And anyway,
right.
we're taking
Um, I think
the
let's
next.
let's bring it all back home. Did we talk about the album cover? Did you have any notes on that?
So, let me just talk about the music on Buckets of Rain. Just guitar and bass,
Okay, yeah.
all there is. That's
Very
what makes
simple.
it.
Ends the song on a simple note.
But how cool is that? Just guitar and bass. Like I love
And
that.
also Shelter on the Storm. And Shelter on Storm, just guitar and bass.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah. Great acoustic guitar. Again, I put in Jim Croce. I hear in this song. Nice rhythm.
Yeah,
Sequence, nice middle bridge, and amazing lyrics.
yeah.
So,
Beautiful, beautiful end to a great album.
oh yeah, uh, the cover is a portrait of Dylan looking to the left at a burgundy-colored strip that has his name on it. It looks like a painting. It was heavily edited and photoshopped by Paul Till. Uh, it was taken with a telephoto lens, and he developed it in a SOLORIZED, and then added color to it. Solarized. He developed it and he solarized it and added color to it using watercolor. Uh, and that's pretty much it. It's a simple cover. There's not much, He looks weird in it.
Yep,
Oh,
very simple. It's very,
it was taken from a concert in Toronto.
but it's a real photograph that was edited. But it's a real
Yeah,
photograph that was edited, which is cool. I did not know that.
from, from a concert.
And compared to his other album covers, yep, yep,
You
yep.
know,
Great album cover though. I think it's one of his. This and Desire are really good. Desire is like
yeah,
a full photograph of him,
yeah.
and
It's
like
a different.
very bohemian looking,
Yeah, it's very different.
very
It's
different.
almost a cartoon in a way, right? In an odd way, as a
Yeah,
cartoonish to it.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, Blood on the Tracks. Check it out. Uh, if you're not a Bob Dylan fan, you don't have to be. Just listen to it. Uh,
It's
it,
one
it-
of the greatest albums of all time. It's on Mr. O's must listen to before you die.
yeah, Tangled Up in Blue, Shelter from the Storm are the two number one song. Oh, and me in the morning. Those three, I think, are the you got to go
Yeah,
with those
yeah.
three.
And just from my perspective, I would add Idiot Wind.
Idiot Wind, yeah, definitely. And thank you, because I didn't really give it much thought until last night, and I listened to it, and I was like, yeah, that's why I told Bobby about it. So whatever, stream it,
Yeah.
whatever kids do, get it, do what you need to do.
Spotify it.
And great episode. So we're gonna be heavy. It's gonna be 3 hours and 30-minute episode, I think.
I think so. But I think it's mostly Cheech, the usual Cheech and Manny rambles and a lot of good stuff in between and banter.
Well, I think
Um,
we philosophize a lot, so hopefully somebody will get
yeah, 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 yeah.
our philosophy of life. And that's what I like about the show. It's like just two good friends philosophizing on the music. We're not just talking. I'm not just saying, yeah,
Yeah.
my first marriage. This is coming off of experience from a lyric that's about
Of the album.
bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Exactly.
that's what makes it cool. And that's what makes us different than most podcasters, So
Yeah.
we're real. And sometimes
100%.
I feel like we're just FaceTiming, and it's just like fun. It's just like, crazy. But another great episode, and I can't wait to get to 40. I mean, we're really. I think we're really.
I gotta see because I'm gonna release. No, I'm gonna release like all these episodes, and I think I gotta see. I think we're at 35. I think. Gotta check though.
I think we're past 30.
So
I
I
think
gotta
we're past.
check. But dude, it's pretty exciting. We have like we're reaching the 40 episode mark. I think
Yeah.
and all of our episodes have been great. And like for our audience out there, I mean, yeah, if you join in on the conversation, I mean, comment below.
Yeah.
Like also you audience out members. I know one of our fans wants us to do a System of a Down episode on their album Toxicity.
Yeah.
But for anyone out there, comment below what you want us to tackle, and
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
philosophize upon it.
You know,
Meditate, talk.
it's always a challenge for me when like I mean I'm not a huge System of the Down fan, but I love their music. I respect them, so it's great for me to research it, write an episode, and then become a fan. You know, like I liked System of the Down when they came out. I thought they were amazing, but I don't know enough. I didn't listen to them enough at the time. I saw them in concert and they were great. They remind me of like when
I think
Rage
it'd be
Against.
worthwhile for you to tackle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it'd be worthwhile for you to listen to Toxicity because I'm telling you that album is actually really good. Like
That the
it's
one with
probably one of the best metal albums, maybe one of the last ones. But
is that Chop Suey on it? I think.
Chop Suey,
Yeah, is that on that album?
yeah,
They're yeah, brilliant band. And I call them new metal because that's what it is. It's considered new metal
right,
at the time because it didn't sound like traditional metal and it didn't sound like. I mean, System of the Down. Let's face it,
right.
they sound like nobody. Nobody sounds like that band. They're very unique.
Well, that's what's so unique about them. So unique, very unique. But my
Yeah,
point is like if anyone wants to comment below on music ideas, we'll take into consideration and
yeah,
discuss amongst ourselves and see what
yeah,
episodes we're releasing. And we're still coming up with ideas. So
yeah,
we have in the future we're going to work on a presence episode. We still have to do Genesis. We still have to do a punk episode. So get excited for that.
yeah. And
And
we're gonna
I think
complete.
those are the ones in work.
We're gonna complete the Led Zeppelin whole thing of Into the Outdoor, Coda, and then do compare and contrast Jimmy Page's The Firm with Robert Plant's album. His solo album. We could do that as one episode. We can, you know, do like the Firm album or Robert Plant solo album and see, the difference and stuff. So I want to, it'd be cool to complete like we did all Led Zeppelin albums. We've covered from one to Coda. That'll be amazing. I can't wait to do that and
Right,
having the great
right,
Joe So.
right.
And then I've been thinking a lot about Genesis, so I got to sit down and get my
Yeah, that
Genesis.
one I'm really excited for. And that one, prog rock.
I think
So
Genesis
that one I would be really excited for. And
with Genesis is going to be like a Bob Dylan. We're gonna go through those four big albums, maybe all the way up to like
oh,
Duke.
just wait. Yeah, just wait. Yeah.
Going to be good. Um, and what was I going to say? Um, what else do we have? Oh, well, we're going to continue Bob Dylan, but we're going to do just two more. We're going to do the Basement Tapes, which are very important, and then Desire, which is the last Bob Dylan album that is worth, I think,
Yeah.
talking about. But I'm still on the search for why Desire came out in 1975 and not 1968 or 67 or 69 when National Sky.
You mean the basement tapes. You mean the basement tapes.
Yeah, what did I say? Whatever I said. Yeah, the Basement Tapes. But I think
It's funny, dude. The spirit of Judas is attacking you, man.
he's coming. He's coming. We gotta let him go. Let him go away.
Yeah,
So anyway, great show, Manny. Two nights in a row, and
sir.
see you next week. Hopefully we'll get Silkman and we'll do Presents. We'll get back on the Zeppelin kick.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
Sounds
Nanuna
good. And
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 and just another great episode. And kids, go out there and listen to Bob Dylan's "Blood on the Tracks" and really listen. Don't just
yeah,
skip.
good start.
Yeah,
Hmm.
listen to his poetry and his metaphors and everything, and and remember, there's only
Yeah.
one true love. Stick with it.
I think we're probably like last of Mohicans with that belief. But
No, we
yes,
are
it's true. Don't listen to certain people that you think you
because
can find it more than once.
because we're romantics, man. We're romantic, and there's not many left.
Yeah,
We should,
one hundred
love-
percent.
we should start
Yeah,
a romantic, and It's just my belief. A lot of people might disagree, but
Yeah,
I could be wrong. But that's the beauty of philosophy, opinion.
that's the beauty. Debate,
Uh,
opinions, talk, conversation, thinking, think about things.
as long as it's done in a way where it's not forced on you. Where some people are like, "Oh no,"
Yes.
like the whole monogamy uh thing, like uh the three people. Was that monog? No, not monog. What is that called? Monogamy? When the
No, I
three
think that's polygamy.
polygamy. Like I'm totally that, and I would never ever ever want to be a part of. I think there's something you got to be. Maybe it's a modern day. The brain is changing in people. Like the way people think these days. I'm starting to
Yeah.
really see 2025. It's not. I feel like I'm a caveman. I'm an outcast in this world. And because if that's the way people are living their lives, hey, I'm not knocking it, but it's an odd way for me. Some people think it's okay. you know. But anyway, we'll
On that
we'll leave,
note,
we'll leave it on that note, and I'll see you next time on the
yeah,
Cheech Manny
we'll leave
Music People's Podcast. All
And
right.
we have been your host, Cheech and Manny, and
Yep.
we'll see you on the next one. And
Yep.
comment below your thoughts on Blood on the Tracks. Comment below on your opinions. You may disagree with us. Also, answer the question: do you think true love exists? Why right now
Yeah.
in today's world? Are you an old soul? We're old souls. I
Yep.
think we'll come up with the old soul club or like romantic club. We're one
Yeah.
of the last, people that believe in this. I'm definitely a big advocate for it.
We're the Dead Poet Society for real. Like put your in there.
Seriously, no, seriously.
You know, like put your comments in there. Does true love really exist, and do you get one chance? You know, with that one true love, and
Yeah,
then
how many do you get? Just one, and it's funny. No, no, and you're the myself too. We're advocates for that, the fairy tale idea that was so eternal of like finding true love and stuff. It's always been an eternal idea, but I think now it's getting really challenged,
I
and there's a
think
cynical view that many
ma-
people are holding.
marriage is meant to be with somebody forever. Like I got to say, when I see these people, they're 80 years old in the temple shopping, holding hands. I'm like, man, oh God, that's so beautiful. I wish I had that. You know, I'm not like, oh, look at these old fogies. They probably hate each other, but they're still together. You know, that's the thing, to stay together. Through thick and thin, and in the religious part of it.
Right, right,
But you only get one
right,
chance
right.
in my world. So, all right,
You only get
brother.
one. Yeah, no fun. No.
All right, man. You have a good night, and I
On that
hope one of
note,
these days
all right, man. You
you
too,
in the.
brother.
I hope one of these days we have a shift in the temple together. You know, that would be cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. Yeah,
You know,
man. We've been like face chat, video chatting here that
we
for our
haven't
fans. It's funny. We haven't actually been physically in the same spot.
in a while. I know, which is crazy. But all right, man. Until next time. Great episode, and thank you everyone for watching our show. Peace. Take care.
All right, stay beautiful out there, people. All right,
All right.
Cheech.
Have a good one. Take care.